Chapter 94. Because of this small change, countless people in the building who were waiting to watch a good show beat their chests and stomp their feet. It was not like this had never happened before, but they did not know if this noble young master was pretending not to see, or if he did not care about them, or if he was completely ignorant of the ways of the world. If it happened once or twice, perhaps people would still have some hope, but if it happened 3 or 4 times, it would inevitably cause people to be disheartened. As a result, those who would give their seats to him in the future were mostly people who truly admired him. The person who had just left was like Chen Zhengmin, an imperial scholar who had entered the capital a long time ago. However, he had no background, no backing, and his talent was average. He knew that his ranking in the spring examination would be very low, and in the final court examination, if he did not do well, he could be in the top 3. He was also a person with an ulterior motive, so he did not want to give it a try. Although it was very likely that he would end up like those people before him, and lose the seat he had obtained with great difficulty. The closer it was to the spring examination, the harder it would be to obtain a seat in the untitled pavilion. However, he mysteriously got up and left the pavilion, and then he received a completely different response. Sun Yilan's servant took the name card, and then watched as his master entered the untitled pavilion. There was no other way. Normally, servants like them could still sneak in, and the people in the untitled pavilion would turn a blind eye. Although they were of lowly birth, in any case, they were much more knowledgeable than many ordinary students. When there was a shortage of seats in the untitled pavilion, there was definitely no place for them. Even the imperial scholars who had just entered the capital not long ago knew of Sun Yilan. The 4 heroes of the capital were the 4 most talented people of the younger generation in the capital. The talent of these 4 people could basically tell whether the students in the capital were worthy of their attention. If there was someone who could suppress these 4 people, then there was naturally nothing to be afraid of. However, if they were completely not a match for them, then they had to be careful. Even if people like Sun Yilan did not participate in the imperial examination, they still had to be vigilant. They had to treat the imperial scholars as important as they did, and not underestimate any opponent. Only then could they have the determination to cut off all means of retreat. Even if it was an imperial examination, there would still be local competition. It was related to the teaching and assessment of the local officials. There was a big difference between 1 grand scholar and 10 grand scholars. There was a big difference between a grand scholar and a grand scholar. The better the place, the better the teaching resources. It was different in the capital. Everything was the best under the feet of the emperor. Therefore, for themselves, for their brothers, for their friends, and even for their descendants, they had to give it their all. Sun Yilan was the youngest of the 4 heroes of the capital. One had to know that among those who participated in the imperial examination, there were many who were over 40 years old. In their eyes, Sun Yilan was still wet behind the ears, even though only those who were under 30 were qualified to be selected as the 4 heroes. Sun Yilan had not appeared for a long time, but everyone knew about his deeds in detail. He had become an official of the internal court and close to the emperor. Who knew how many people were jealous? They all thought that it was only because of his good family background and that he did not have any ability. Some people even said that if he participated in the imperial examinations, would he be able to pass as a county scholar? It had to be said that scholars never used a dirty word when cursing people, but the degree of their viciousness was definitely more piercing than that of the most shameless shrew. They could even kill people. Look at his good looks. No wonder he can gain the favor of the princes. He does indeed have the talent. The person who spoke did not avoid the taboo at all. He even purposely raised his voice. How many people did not know about the recent uproar? Thus, everyone immediately understood what these words meant. Although many of them had such thoughts, they did not think that someone would dare to say it so boldly. The building was instantly deathly silent. Sun Yilan, who was standing alone at the entrance, was even more conspicuous. He seemed to be dressed in a low-key manner, but in reality he was dressed in brocade. Every accessory was expensive and extraordinary. They were just right on him. His actions all showed his great bearing and self-restraint. Although his eyes were somewhat cold, it still showed the world's evaluation of him. A gentleman is like a jade, unparalleled in the world. It had to be said that because of this sentence, although there were many people who wanted to laugh at him, there were even more people who frowned. This person was clearly trying to please the crowd with claptrap. He did not have the slightest strength of character and self-restraint that a scholar should have. It was really embarrassing, especially those who had lived in the capital for a long time and had seen Sun Yilan's talent. They were very indignant. However, they did not know whether the recent events were true or false. They were only worried that if they spoke up, it would bring more trouble to him. Therefore, they did not speak up to help him. It was Chun Jungmin who ignored his good friend's obstruction and said, "This brother, please be careful with your words. It's just a false rumor." A scholar should have a clear mind and not listen to rumors and stir up trouble. Oh, another one who hasn't grown up yet. You're so protective of that young Master Lin. Could it be that you have an affair with him? Ha ha ha. As he spoke, he laughed arrogantly. Because he had attracted everyone's attention, he became even more complacent. Chun Jungmin was very angry. Sun Yilan had long been used to being the center of attention. Whether it was good intentions or bad intentions, he did not even lift his eyelids. He had always been upright and was not afraid of the shadow being crooked. At this moment, he looked at Chun Jungmin but did not say anything. If it was in the past, Sun Yilan would probably ignore it. Of course, in the past, even if there were people who were jealous and doubtful of him, they would at most say a few words. They would not be as daring as this person. However, it was really embarrassing. Sun Yilan was not in a good mood today. Originally, he was not a person who liked to take out his anger on others. However, since someone had bumped into the muzzle of the gun, then don't blame him for not being polite. He casually adjusted his sleeves and wrote a poem with each step. In less than 4 steps, it had already become a poem. Everyone was so surprised that they could not close their mouths, including those who doubted him. They also put away their contempt. This was really too amazing. Although the core content of the poem was simple and straightforward, a jumping clown playing to the gallery, lamentable and laughable. But the poem was gorgeous, the content was rich, and the charm was long. No matter how one looked at it, it was a good work. Except for a certain person whose face was green and white, the rest were all slapping the table and praising it. The part of the people who were from the capital were even more excited. They all knew that Sun Yilan was very knowledgeable, but he was a very low-key person. Usually, they rarely saw him study in public. But they did not expect that this person with a very good temper, once provoked, would not hold back in his counterattack. He could directly trample people to death. Not to mention other things, once this poem was out, that person just now, even if he could get a good ranking in the imperial examination, in the end, he was afraid that he would not get a good result. Those who had the heart to mock Sun Yilan before had to restrain themselves at this time. He had worked so hard to get to where he was today, but at this crucial moment, he made a mistake. The gains did not make up for the losses, not to mention that it was just because of his cheap mouth. Moreover, Sun Yilan was the favorite person by the emperor's side. Offending him was definitely not a wise move. Perhaps thinking of what might happen to him in the future, in a moment of grief and indignation, he did not want to apologize and seek Sun Yilan's forgiveness. Instead, he lost the last bit of his scholarly demeanor and cursed without thinking. Not only Sun Yilan, but also the officials, the royal family, and even the current emperor. He used his background to not give people a way out, oppressing the common people, eating a vegetarian position, not doing anything in a superior position, and so on. At this time, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, and the people who were originally dissuading him all retreated 3 feet, afraid that they would be implicated by him. This was no longer as simple as a heart that was unable to calm down. It was purely a loss of rationality, no different from courting death. The faces of the people in Untitled Restaurant were extremely black. In the entire capital, there was no one who was the most vegetarian on the surface other than their actual master, There was no one else. The shopkeeper ordered, "Throw him out for me." Then, that person was really lifted up on all four limbs and thrown out. Perhaps now that he had fallen to such a state, it was already too late to redeem himself. He might as well smash the pot that had already been broken and wanted to put on a big show in front of Untitled Restaurant. Unfortunately, before he could say a word, a few people came forward, cleanly blocked his mouth, and dragged him away. The shopkeeper's hands were folded in his sleeves as he coldly watched. Sun Yilin did not even frown, and those who had lived in the capital for a long time sneered. What an idiot! Did he really think that the plaque outside the restaurant, "As if I am here in person," was just for show? At this time, those who did not know were all silent like cicadas in winter. It turned out that outside the restaurant, there were people from the emperor. In the blink of an eye, the shopkeeper looked at Sun Yilin with a smiling face and respectfully said, "Young Master Lin, where would you like to sit?" A person who had a good relationship with Sun Yilin waved at him. Sun Yilin did not refuse his good intentions, but he did not directly go over, and instead waved at Chen Zhengmin. Then he instructed the shopkeeper to prepare a jar of 10 years old Huadia wine for him. Unlike other places, the Huadia wine of Untitled Restaurant was a first-class strong wine. Chen Zhengmin was somewhat overwhelmed by the favor and pointed at himself in disbelief. It must be said that these young men all revered Sun Yilin. They were clearly of the same age, but Sun Yilin was already standing at the top of the mountain, while they were at most halfway up the mountain, and many were still pacing back and forth at the foot of the mountain. Chen Jingmin's good friends were both openly and secretly urging him to hurry over. This was a rare opportunity. If he missed this village, there might not be this shop anymore. However, Chen Zhengmin was still at a loss. He only helped because he could not stand it and did not mean anything else. However, since the other party had already invited him, he should at least go over and say hello and not be considered rude. After thinking about it, he walked over. Young Master Lin, just now, unexpectedly, Sun Yilin did not even bother with him and walked over to where his good friends were. "Follow me." Not to mention Chen Zhengmin, even those who were slightly familiar with Sun Yilin were somewhat confused by him. This was not his usual style. And, as the person involved, Chen Zhengmin, was naturally the most affected. Just a short moment of eye contact, and he could clearly feel the coldness in his attitude, and that extremely critical sizing up, and finally there was dissatisfaction written in his eyes. What was going on? "Young Master Chen, please come over for a moment." After Sun Yilin sat down, he saw that Chen Zhengmin was still standing at the same spot in a daze, his fingers tapping on the table, and the speed was rather fast. If his servant was here, he would know that his young master was a little irritable. The first time he saw Chen Zhengmin, he felt that he was far from being worthy of Miss Luo. Perhaps there was no problem with his character, but his heart was too upright, and this was not suitable to be in the official circle. However, without a high position and generous salary, how could he pamper Miss Luo? Could it be that after marriage, she would give up the things she loved and work hard for the family's livelihood? Moreover, he looked too immature. If he married an ordinary lady, perhaps they would be called a perfect match. However, that was Miss Luo. If she were to be together with Chen Zhengmin, those who did not know would think that it was Miss Luo who was taking care of a child. Also, sometimes he looked dull. What kind of interest could there be? For a man who was full of flaws from head to toe, how much responsibility could he have? The problems that Sun Yilin was thinking about might exist, but it was far from being that serious. It was because he cared too much, and because he was just a step late, he had lost to such a person. Even if it was unintentional, he had subconsciously magnified the other party's flaws by 100 times, and was nitpicking at him. "Young Master Lin knows me?" Chen Zhengmin was once again surprised, and in Sun Yilin's eyes, he was once again a fool. Seeing that Sun Yilin's speed of knocking on the table was getting faster and faster, even the dullest person could tell that this young Master Lin did not seem to be in a good mood. He was usually such a gentle person, but now he could not suppress his anxiety, which meant that the matter should be very serious. The surrounding people subconsciously slowed down their breathing. Sun Yilin had a high position among the scholars in the capital, and in addition to his noble status, some people even unconsciously pushed him up to the altar. When he showed the emotions that ordinary people had, it was as if he had suddenly stepped down from the altar, but people could not help but take care of his emotions. Chun Jung-min hurriedly took 2 steps forward. "Does young Master Lin have any instructions?" "Serve me with brush and ink." Untitled Restaurant naturally did not lack the 4 treasures of the study. Just as Sun Yilin's voice fell, the waiter brought the things over. Even the grindstone had already been ground. Sun Yilin took the brush and dipped in ink, waved his hand and wrote 4 big words, then pushed it to Chun Jung-min. "If you write well, I will personally present it to His Majesty." Once these words came out, everyone was shocked. This was simply paving a path to heaven in advance. Not to mention whether or not His Majesty would immediately put him in an important position, as long as he could leave a good impression by the time the court examination came. As long as his essay was not bad, he might even be selected by His Majesty. This represented not only glory, but also a prosperous career. If he had known that he would get such an opportunity just by saying a word of help, that person would have been directly scolded to death by them. They were jealous of Chun Jingmin's good luck and secretly cursed Sun Yilin for changing his previous behavior. In the past, so many people tried to curry favor with him, but not only did they not receive any benefits, they even became people that he refused to interact with. Now, just by using this method, he wanted to tell those who had opinions about him that he had the means to reach the heavens. Then you, Sun Yilin, have done it. Chun Jung-min did not expect that such a thing would happen to him. It would be a lie to say that he was unhappy, but to say that he was extremely excited, that was definitely not the case. After all, he still had the nobility of a scholar. Even if he wanted to be an official and benefit the common people, he wanted to use his own ability, and not this kind of shortcut. However, because his grandfather had been an official of the imperial court, he had told him a lot about it. He knew that the bureaucracy was not a place where one could climb up through hard work. There was a huge difference between having someone to help you and fighting alone. Although he was entering the bureaucracy, now, there would be Luo Shangshu to help him. But one more person meant one more path. He hoped that when they got married 2 years later, he could let his cousin be even more glorious, and let others envy her for marrying such a good husband, and not ridicule her for marrying such an incompetent husband. Why, is there a problem? Can't do it, or is it because you don't want to do it? He put away his gentleness, leaving behind only coldness. Once again, he clearly felt that young Master Lin had opinions about him. Furthermore, he knew who he was. Could it be that he had unintentionally done something to offend him? Now, he was clearly giving him a chance, but in reality, he was preparing to make things difficult for him. But after thinking it through, he found it hard to reject such an opportunity. Whether it was an opportunity or a trap, he would only know after the matter was over. There were both good and bad things, and if he did not do it, he might not be able to completely avoid it. But if he did it, there might be great benefits. There was no need to hesitate about what to choose. Then, this one will show his incompetence. Chun Jung-min's pen seemed to be full of spirit, and he did not stop writing. It could be seen that he was very confident, and his writing was also very smooth. Compared to people of the same age, he was already very good. Sun Yilin's tense face finally relaxed. At least there was something good about him. If his knowledge was not good, even if he had to be a villain for once, he would think of a way to ruin this marriage. The current Sun Yilin and Li Hongyuan belonged to 2 extremes. Li Hongyuan did things by unscrupulous means, but because of his father's interference since young, Sun Yilin had been learning the way of a gentleman. For example, on the matter of Jingwan, he hoped that Jingwan would be better, and not the actions of a villain. He must snatch Jingwan. He was going through a metamorphosis, but something that was engraved in his bones was not so easy to remove. No longer caring about what Qin Jingmin's final article would be, Sun Yilin began to drink cup after cup. At first, he did not attract the attention of others, but gradually, more and more people focused their attention on him. What exactly happened to young Master Lin? One cup after another was not enough. Sun Yilin directly picked up the wine pot, raised his head, and the clear wine flowed into his mouth in a line. Gulp, gulp, gulp. The part that he did not have time to swallow slipped out of his mouth. Some of it soaked his clothes, and some of it fell to the ground. After finishing the pot, he threw it away and picked up the second pot. One must know that a pot of Huadiao wine could hold more than 10 pots. Yilin, you can't drink like this. His friend could not stand it and reached out to grab the wine pot. Move away. Sun Yilin swatted his hand away. Yilin, what happened? What happened? Sun Yilin tilted his head and was stunned. Nothing, I'm fine. Sun Yilin rarely drank, so his alcohol tolerance was not very good. After 3 pots, he was completely drunk. However, he was like most people, and did not admit that he was drunk. Done? Let me take a look. He stood up and shakily took Qin Jingmin's article, shook his head, and quickly read it. He did not comment, but took a pen and began to write. Even if he was drunk, his writing was still steady. Or perhaps it was because he was drunk. His writing was wild and impeccable. However, the content was frightening, extremely sharp, and penetrating. Even the onlookers felt uncomfortable, not to mention the emperor. Even if Sun Yilin was the emperor's favorite person, if this article were to spread, he would be in trouble. After he finished writing, Sun Yilin put down the pen and stared at the paper in a daze. Perhaps it was because he was a little shocked when he looked at it again. He became sober and rubbed the corner of his eyes. This is the homework that the emperor gave me today. He asked me to submit it tomorrow. Young Master Chen, please write another article that you are good at. Be careful. It seemed that he intended to submit his own article as well. Hiss, the people around all gasped. This was too bold. However, after they calmed down and thought about it, this seemed to be the wisest thing to do. Sun Yilin was a member of Prince Kang's faction. This article was actually a weakness. With so many people seeing it, it was better to do it himself instead of letting his opponent submit it. Perhaps this boldness would gain the emperor's favor and make him think more of him. Even if he was punished in the end, it was better than being falsely accused by his opponent. However, it was also because of this article that they knew that Sun Yilin's reputation was not undeserved. He was worthy of being one of the 4 heroes of the capital and did not disgrace this name. Other than a few arrogant and conceited people, after secretly comparing in their hearts, they all expressed that they were far inferior compared to Sun Yilin. Young Master Lin Yu, what are you being long-winded for? Hurry up and write. Or is this all you can do? Have you exhausted all your skills? Previously, she was only cold and hard, but now she was simply icy cold. Perhaps because of her attitude, Chen Zhengmin had some thoughts of competing with her. Therefore, when an article came out, everyone was surprised. This article, compared to the previous one, was not just a little bit better. Moreover, this did not mean that his previous article was not good. Was this brat hiding his strength just now? Faced with everyone's doubts, Chen Zhengmin was a little embarrassed. To be honest, after he finished writing, he was a little surprised himself. He had exceeded his usual performance. Very good. Even Sun Yilin gave such an evaluation. Maintain this momentum. He folded the 3 articles and put them properly in his sleeve. Help me out. The last words were also said to Qin Zhengmin. Seeing that he could not stand steadily, Qin Zhengmin's anger had almost dissipated because of that article, so he did not refuse. Sun Yilin's servant, who was outside, heard that his young master was drinking to drown his sorrows and was extremely worried. However, due to the rules, he could not enter and could only wait anxiously. When he saw him coming out, he hurriedly went up to welcome him. Beside the carriage, Sun Yilin tugged at Qin Zhengmin. If you don't treat her well, don't blame me for snatching her. Chen Zhengmin was confused and did not understand. What did young Master Lin say? Miss Luo, if I was not held back by other matters, how could it be your turn? Chen Jingmin's face changed. He finally understood the reason for his strange attitude. No wonder someone reminded him to move quickly. He was not the only one who thought highly of the Luo family's 3rd young lady. He did not expect that there would be such a strong competitor. I will not give young Master Lin a chance. Sun Yilin smiled coldly and allowed his own people to help him into the carriage. If he did not drink, he probably would not have said such a declaration. After all, if he met a narrow-minded man, he would most likely suspect that his fiancée was a promiscuous woman. This would definitely cause a lot of trouble for Jingwan. But he drank too much and was not so rational. If he did not let Qin Zhengmin know of his existence, he would always feel a little indignant. If he did not give him some pressure, he would still think that it was natural for him to get the beauty. Without any hindrance, he would not know how to cherish her properly. Qin Zhengmin looked at the carriage, slowly leaving, and the sense of urgency in his heart grew stronger. What did this young Master Lin have to do with him? One moment he was still revering him, and the next moment he wished he could kick him far away. His cousin was his, and they were already engaged. He was justified, and no one could snatch her away. So what if he was proud of himself? As long as he did not marry his cousin, he might not be able to be proud until the end. So what if he was confident of passing the imperial examinations? After realizing the gap between him and Sun Yilin, his goal was to at least get first rank. If he could not even get first rank, what qualifications did he have to talk about? Qin Zhengmin returned to the untitled building and bid farewell to his friends. What he needed to do was to go back and continue his studies and not waste his time on such meaningless things. Everyone was confused by his actions, and in the end, they only thought that he was provoked by Sun Yilin. The matter here had just ended, and many people from the other parties had already received the news. There was no other way. Sun Yilin had been in the limelight recently, and even the slightest movement would alert them. Moreover, this matter was not considered small. His opponents sighed inwardly. Even if he was drunk, he was still meticulous and thoughtful. Everything was out in the open. It was obviously not advisable to submit his essay before him. However, it did not mean that they could not do something. They could criticize his arrogance and shameless boasting. If they could reduce the emperor's good impression of him to 0, that would be the best. After all, it was a fact that 2 princes fought because of him. It was inevitable that the emperor would have a knot in his heart. However, the deepest impression that this matter left on them was that the usually gentle and amiable Sun Yilin actually had the potential to be arrogant. They could not tell. Li Hongyuan naturally knew about this matter at the first moment. Compared to the other people who only received the complete contents of the 3 essays, Li Hongyuan received the original. That's right, there was such an expert in the untitled building. As long as he took a look, he would be able to copy almost 100% of the original. The reason why it was close was mainly because the form was exactly the same, but the charm was sometimes a little lacking. This was something that could not be helped. No matter how skilled a person was, it was not easy to enter the state of another person's writing. For example, Sun Yilin's essay. In Li Hongyuan's view, it was already not bad if it had 20 to 30% of the charm of the original. Even if Sun Yilin was a love rival, Li Hongyuan did not deny him. After reading Qin Zhengmin's 2 essays, the difference was a little big, but that was it. He threw the 3 essays to the side. Sun Yilin was so kind to help recommend him. This will save us the effort of wasting our time on Qin Zhengmin. If he still can't enter the 1st grade, don't blame this prince for giving him an even worse wife. https://www.bicken.com/11/118076652977. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile version, reading website, Bicken.com. Chapter 95. As for the previous farce about the love triangle, Li Hongyuan was also very straightforward at the beginning. He directly threatened that he liked Sun Yilin, so he might as well let him enter the residence with Sun Yijia. In ancient times, there was a beautiful story of a sister serving a husband. Now that he had a sister serving a husband, it might become a beautiful thing many years later. Not to mention Lu Chengdi and Duke Dinghua, even the empress was very angry. In the past, whenever Li Hongyuan caused trouble, although she stood in the empress's position and demanded severe punishment, out of 10 times, at least 7 or 8 times, she was just putting on a show. Although she was angry about the other 2 or 3 times, it was only 20 or 30%. This time, her anger soared to 12%. Although Li Hongyi was a good-for-nothing, he was still her son and the biggest chess piece in her desire to seize power. Without this son, all her schemes would be in vain. However, Li Hongyuan ruthlessly injured him. Li Hongyi also said that at that moment, he really felt that Li Hongyuan wanted to kill him. She didn't think that her son would lie to her about this kind of thing. How could this be? There was also Sun Yilin, who was her most promising nephew, and also a good chess piece she had prepared. The higher his status at Lu Chengdi's side, the more advantageous it would be for her future. Otherwise, why would she repeatedly create opportunities for Sun Yilin to show his face in front of the emperor? Everything was going smoothly. Lu Chengdi didn't like the people of Duke Dinghua's mansion, except for Sun Yilin. In addition, Sun Yilin was even more famous. With his appearance, he was bound to win over more talents of the same generation. When things became clear in the future, even if he knew that she, the Empress Dowager behind the scenes, had the final say, he didn't need to blatantly express his support for her. He only needed to remain silent. Then there would be a lot less memorials to depose her, and she would have a lot less trouble. One day, she would be able to naturally interfere in court affairs, and no one would say anything. But Li Hongyuan wanted to destroy him. So, how could she not be angry? It was also because of this that this time she was truly going against noble consort Su. Compared to the Empress's people, imperial concubine Su and the others were unusually carefree, especially Li Hongming. He secretly regretted that Li Hongyuan didn't directly kill Li Hongyuan. In this way, he only needed to sacrifice him. Not only would he lose his biggest competitor, but he would also be the most legitimate successor in terms of etiquette. However, he also knew that Li Hongyuan was not stupid. How could he so easily stain his brother's life? However, as his mother, even if imperial concubine Su felt that her opponent deserved it, she still had to teach him a lesson. Therefore, unlike the Empress, who insisted on severely punishing Li Hongyuan, she scolded Li Hongyuan while pleading with Lu Chengdi. The 2 most noble women in the imperial harem also began to quarrel. The Empress said that imperial concubine Su had to take the main responsibility for Li Hongyuan's current situation. It was she who didn't teach the prince well and had let down the emperor's grace. Imperial concubine Su said that Li Hongyuan was just playing with Sun Yilin. It was Li Hongyi who started it first. If he didn't resist, would he just wait to be beaten to death? One had to know that her son was still injured. Li Hongyi was so vicious that if he wasn't his brother, he wouldn't be the eldest brother. Her Yuan should be punished, and he couldn't escape the blame. The back and forth was really lively. In contrast, Lu Chengdi was strangely calm. Lu Chengdi received a bunch of memorials to impeach Li Hongyuan. This matter was different from the past. Li Hongyuan had lost the face of the imperial family. Not to mention imperial concubine Su and Li Hongming's opponents. Even most of the neutral members of the imperial family demanded severe punishment. Otherwise, how could they restore the imperial prestige? Lu Chengdi's strange attitude this time was unknown. It was unknown whether it was because he was used to Li Hongyuan causing trouble from time to time, or because he had already expected this day to come when he first heard that his son was in love with Nenfeng. He even had the interest to look through the memorials that accused Li Hongyuan of 10 major crimes. As he read, he laughed happily. Hee, look at our son. He's different from others. He's been so energetic since he was young. If he didn't cause trouble one day, I would find it strange. Seeing such an abnormal Lu Chengdi, the attendants all pretended to be deaf and dumb. Anyway, there would be a few days like this every year. Mother, How will father punish sixth brother this time? Li Hongyi asked Imperial Concubine Su. Imperial Concubine Su was startled and said with a bit of sadness, "There won't be any punishment. Yuan Er's birth mother's death anniversary has arrived. If he hadn't been assassinated, he would still be praying in White Dragon Temple." The imperial noble consort back then, what exactly? Ming This isn't something you should ask. It won't do you any good to know. Mother, how will father punish sixth brother? Li Hongyi, who was recuperating in Kunyi Palace, pounded the bed and asked the Empress, with hatred in his eyes. The Empress looked at him coldly. "I just told you not to go against him. You just left the palace, and you directly attacked him. You completely ignored my words. Now you're asking me, isn't it too unnecessary?" The hatred in Li Hongyi's eyes immediately dissipated. As a man, he looked at the Empress at a loss. "Mother, it's not that I don't listen to you. It's just that Li Hongyuan, that bastard, is too infuriating." I was muddle-headed for a moment. The Empress sneered. The result of being muddle-headed for a moment is that you lost all your advantages. Even if you were reasonable, you became unreasonable. You still want Li Hongyuan to be punished. You haven't woken up yet. I'm injured like this. Are we just going to let it go like this? Li Hongyi was so angry that his eyes were red. That's because you're not as skilled as others. You asked for it. Besides, Li Hongyuan is your father's favorite. Who do you think you are? If he is severely punished, do you think you can escape? It's good enough that your father can give you some compensation. Besides, the imperial noble consort's death anniversary is approaching. These days, your father is the most unreasonable. It's possible that he will punish you and reward Li Hongyuan. Think about it carefully. How many old officials actually impeached Li Hongyuan? Even if they did, it's just for show. After the initial anger, the Empress immediately thought that this time she might only suffer a loss. However, she had already made a fuss. She couldn't stop just because she wanted to. Otherwise, how could she explain to her own people? It was hard to get off a tiger. She could only continue to make a fuss. The result was probably that Lu Chengdi would be even more annoyed. Because of this, it was more and more depressing. Since the imperial noble consort is so important, why didn't anyone mention her in the past few years? Why didn't my father worship her on her death anniversary every year? I said you're stupid. You're really stupid. Do I have to tell you clearly before you understand? That woman's death is strange. Is it strange that your father doesn't worship her? How many people will remember a person who has been dead for more than 20 years? Because your father is the Son of Heaven, his every move is watched. So that woman hasn't been completely forgotten. Those old officials who know about this clearly know that your father hates it. Who will be stupid enough to spread it everywhere? They know that your father is abnormal on these days every year. So naturally, they won't provoke him. This year, Li Hongyuan happened to cause trouble, so... The Empress paused. Maybe Li Hongyuan also chose this time to deliberately provoke you. Maybe someone wants to take advantage of this special day to assassinate him in White Dragon Temple. But each of you lost people. Who will benefit the most? Because his own mother said that he was stupid, Li Hongyi almost refuted her and said that she also gave birth to him. But in the end, he couldn't say it. He was angry, but he couldn't say it. Now, seeing that she was still lost in thought and didn't take him seriously at all, Li Hongyi didn't know how to react. Maybe it was because he was stupid and easy to control that he could live well until now. If he was smarter and didn't obediently be a pawn in her hand, she could naturally, ruthlessly abandon him. Maybe she could use him to plot against noble consort Su once, and then adopt someone who would listen to her. Li Hongyi thought that it was rare for him to be smart, but the result was so sad. Yilin's attitude is a bit strange this time. Wasn't it very strange? From the beginning to the end, Sun Yilin was very quiet and calm. Except for telling the truth about the incident, he didn't say anything else. He didn't judge others right or wrong. Even when he faced Lu Chengdi with others, he was the same. He didn't get angry because of being humiliated, nor did he pretend to be calm. Duke Ding let him take the position of the victim's family and let Lu Qingdi make a decision for him. He was bound to get justice. Sun Yilin just looked at him for a moment and then opened his mouth. Actually, I'm not father's son. Otherwise, why didn't you consider me even once? Evil creature, what did you say? Duke Ding didn't know if it was because he was disobeyed or because Sun Yilin had seen through his thoughts. He felt that he was ashamed of this son and used anger to cover himself. Isn't it? Father clearly thinks that I haven't lost enough face. Do I have to cry endlessly like a woman and beg for death to make you satisfied? Does my good Dage wish that I could really do as Jin Qinhuang wishes and enter Jin Qinhuang Fu with Mimi and completely sweep away this obstacle of mine? How can you think of your Dage like that? When you were young, he treated you so well, don't you know? You're also talking about when I was young. If it wasn't because of the affection when I was young, would I have tolerated it until now? Father, what did he do in the end? And how much did you tacitly allow? I won't list them one by one, so as not to completely cut off the last bit of kinship. What you do, I don't care. But what I do, you'd better not care. Although the relationship between Duke Ding and Sun Yilin was thin, Sun Yilin still didn't contradict him. Suddenly, Duke Ding only felt that his dignity as a father was seriously provoked. Evil creature, you're rebelling against the heavens. At the same time, he slapped him. However, Sun Yilin really rebelled against the heavens. He grabbed Duke Ding's hand. Even if I'm rebelling against the heavens, it's because you forced me. Evil creature, you still dare to fight with Laozi. Do you believe that Laozi will expel you from the family? Sun Yilin sneered. When I was in White Dragon Temple, I asked Mother to bring you a few words. Obviously, she didn't tell you. Father, you might as well go and ask. After asking clearly, you can decide how to deal with me. If you really want to expel me from a family, I will frown. Once I leave the gate of Duke Ding's mansion, I will die without a burial place. But before that, I have to have a good contest with my good Dage. You might as well let me take a good look at Dage's ability after running the business for so many years and with your help. Shaking off Duke Ding's hand, he turned and strode away. Duke Ding looked at Sun Yilin's back as he left. Just like Duchess Ding at White Dragon Temple, he was a little stunned. When did his son become so tough? However, his ruthlessness made him look like a real member of the Sun family. But why was his attitude toward the family instead of the outside world? Duke Ding couldn't help but reflect on whether he had really done something wrong. He also knew that he was ashamed of his son and admitted that his son was better than the eldest son. It wasn't that he didn't hesitate, but he knew very well that there couldn't be two tigers on one mountain. Everything he did was for Duke Ding's mansion. If his son was the eldest son, then there would be no problem. Unfortunately, there weren't so many ifs in the world. Of course, he was angry to expel his son from a family. If he really did that, he didn't know how many people would laugh at him. People such as his mother and the Empress sister would definitely kill him. Not only that, if he dared to do so, his son would be received with the courtesy of a distinguished guest when he went out. How stupid would he be to do such a thing that would harm himself and benefit others? However, his wife had concealed such an important thing, so he had to ask her immediately. If he didn't know the thoughts of his son, who he thought he understood very well, but in fact, he didn't understand at all, he would only be more passive and lose his dignity as a father. Not to mention how Duke Ding and his wife quarreled. Sun Yilin also let Li Honyuan talk nonsense there. He insisted that there was something unusual between them. Anyway, when he had enough, this matter would be almost over. In the past few days, Lu Qingdi had always been kind to Li Honyuan. In the end, he even said, Yuan, just tell me directly. What do you want? If you really want a male concubine, I'll help you. Your Majesty. More than one person hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Shut up. I'm not asking you. As gentle as the spring breeze, he became as cold as ice in the blink of an eye. Only a few people had seen Lu Qingdi like this more than 20 years ago. Even if it was an emperor with a relatively gentle temperament, as long as he was in power, as long as he was the real emperor, No one could stop him when he decided to do something. The so-called thunder and rain were all the grace of the emperor. Li Hongyuan's face was expressionless. In his previous life, his father had not been so indulgent towards him. In fact, his father had been very cold towards him. Other than the fact that he was not a bastard, it was also because of his outstanding performance. That's right. Li Hongyuan knew very early that the more he was a bastard and the more trouble he caused, the better his father would treat him. In his previous life, it was not strange that he could finally learn about his biological mother from imperial concubine Su, who was imprisoned by him. As his father, he wanted to compensate him, but he didn't have the courage to go to the extreme. After all, in his eyes, the country was more important, so he could only use this kind of doting and indulgence to make up for it. In any case, his goal had already been achieved. Aken just saw that eldest imperial brother looked like he wanted to eat Aken alive, so Aken was angry at him. Male concubine. There's no need for Aken to set this precedent. Lu Qingdi nodded, indicating that he understood. No matter how much other people said, he would not listen or not believe. His son wanted to waste time, so he also wasted time like this. Now that Li Hongyuan said something, he completely believed it. So the matter was over. He gently comforted his son, and even said that it was Li Hongyi's fault as an elder brother. When he returned, he would let him apologize to him. Then, thinking that his injuries had not healed, he told him to quickly go back and recuperate. The next day, a large number of rewards were bestowed, plus the rewards that were given to him, because of Sun Yijia's matter. Good things flowed into Jin Qinhuang Fu like water. Did Lu Qingdi empty his private storehouse of good things? When the rewards arrived at Jin Qinhuang Fu, it was also not long after the drunk Sun Yilin was sent back to Dingguogong Fu. Sun Yilin was the victim's family, so Lu Qingdi also rewarded him with a lot of things. He let the chamberlain leave a message, saying that it was his evil spawn son's fault. Sun Yilin would do as he should in the future, and Lu Qingdi would not bear any grudges against him. After all, Li Hongyi was also injured, so Lu Qingdi also expressed his apology. However, Lu Qingdi's appeasement to him was one matter. As an elder brother, he had acted against his younger brother, so it was necessary for him to apologize. Li Hongyi, who had already been sent back to Kang Qinhuang Fu, was so angry that his internal organs almost exploded. Although it was not consistent with what Muhu said, it was not far from the truth. Even if he knew that there was such a possibility when it came to it, he still hated. If he was not stopped, he would have smashed the things that Lu Qingdi bestowed him. Li Hongyuan threw out 3 articles, and not long after, he came out to receive his reward. Seeing too many good things, Li Hongyuan didn't even lift his eyelids. He let people casually reward the chamberlain who delivered the things, and then moved the things back to the storehouse. As for how to organize it, there was no need for Li Hongyuan to instruct. Mu Gongong would take care of it properly. In any case, it was enough to follow one principle. Things that the future Wang Fei might like, things that she would use, should be properly kept. As for the other things, no matter how precious, should be directly kept at the bottom of the chest and stuffed into the innermost part. Although Li Hongyuan's temper was very bad, when it came to sending things to his fu, the chamberlains still fought over it. There was no other way. Li Hongyuan's hands were wide, and any random reward would not be less than 100 taels. This was a good thing that would not happen anywhere else. Once again, Lu Qingdi's actions were known to the entire capital at the fastest speed. Whether it was those who already knew that he had no bottom line towards Li Hongyuan, or those who had just entered the capital and hadn't heard of it, they were all speechless for a long time. Then, those who were in the know warned those who were not in the know that in the capital, no matter who they provoked, they shouldn't provoke the king of hell, Jin Qinhuang, Li Hongyuan. If they met him, it was best to stay far away from him. At the same time, some people's thoughts began to become active. This Jin Qinhuang was so favored. Maybe in the future he could if he was under his tutelage. In the blink of an eye, this idea was ruthlessly dispelled. In the past it wasn't that no one had done this, but the end was very miserable. Before entering the gate of Jin Qinhuang Fu, Their legs were broken, and they were thrown out. If there were still people who didn't give up, what was thrown out was a human skin. If their lives were gone, what glory, splendor, wealth, and rank could they talk about? However, Lu Chengdi had said that this was only a misunderstanding. In the end, nothing happened. Sun Yilin, Gongzi Lin, still wanted to drown his sorrows in wine, borrowing drunkenness to become crazy. What was the reason? Sun Yilin, being carried back in a drunken state, naturally alarmed everyone in the Fu. Whether it was genuine concern or fake concern, one by one, they all gathered in Sun Yilin's courtyard. Unfortunately, no matter who asked, Sun Yilin kept his mouth shut. When he was annoyed, he directly told them to scram. People who didn't lose their temper were the scariest when they lost their temper. When Sun Yijia arrived, Sun Yilin's door was surrounded by 3 layers of people. They thought that they were whispering very softly, but when there were so many people, they joined together, just like those annoying flies. Sun Yijia looked on coldly. Suddenly, a servant girl bumped into her from the side and pulled off her veil, seemingly intentionally or unintentionally. Ah! A scream instantly attracted everyone's attention. Then, they all saw the hideous wound on Sun Yijia's face. One by one, they subconsciously covered their mouths. Previously, they didn't see how badly she was injured, but they didn't expect it to be so serious. There were some who sympathized, but there were even more who gloated. Older sister, I'm sorry. Younger sister was suddenly frightened, so, no, actually that. A girl who was dressed very delicately was frightened. She was trembling, but she pretended to be calm and stammered as she explained. She looked very pitiful. The servant girl who bumped into Sun Yijia also knelt on the ground, kowtowing and begging for mercy. Older sister Jia's face, slap. A crisp sound rang out, and everyone fell silent. They looked in disbelief at Sun Yilin, who had just finished hitting Sun Yilin, and calmly put back his veil. Noisy. She gently glanced at the servant girl on the ground and said, "Take this impetuous servant girl away and flog her 50 times. After 50 flogs, those who were in good condition could still be alive, but most of them would directly die. The servant girl was scared and really kowtowed to beg for mercy. After a few thuds, blood appeared on her forehead. However, Sun Yilin was completely unmoved. 2 strong old maids behind her directly came forward, gagged the servant girl, and dragged her away. The girl who had been beaten covered her face, and her eyes were full of hatred. However, probably because she was used to enduring, she didn't lose her temper, but her tears rolled down like a broken string of beads. Older sister, She was very aggrieved. If you dare to say one more word, I will make you become like me. Sun Yilin touched her face meaningfully. In the eyes of everyone, Sun Yijia, who was disfigured, was like a mad dog. Who knew if she really did what she said? Others didn't dare to say anything, but the girl's mother was very distressed. Her face was beaten, so hard that it was obviously swollen. In 3 days, it would be Great Elder Princess's birthday. What should she do if the swelling still didn't go down? Sister Jia, as the saying goes, when it is possible to forgive, forgive. Besides, your sister is just timid. She is not. Sun Yijia glanced at her coldly and said, I am teaching a servant girl and a sister of a concubine a lesson. As a concubine, how dare you interrupt? Who gave you the courage? This is my 5th brother's courtyard. As a concubine, what are you doing here? This is the outer courtyard, and my 5th brother is not a child of 3 or 5 years old. Do you still have any manners? What's the matter? Could it be that you despise my father for being old, so you're recommending yourself to my 5th brother? Sun Yilin's words were undeniably vicious, and she overturned a group of people with one stroke. The onlookers' faces turned pale, and it was very interesting. Sister Jia, how can you say that? Where is your upbringing? Sun Yijia glanced at the aunt who spoke and said, Upbringing? Then tell me, what did I say or do wrong? She had nothing to say. This was indeed not a place where they should have come. At most, it would be good enough if the brothers and sisters came to take a look. Even if the aunts wanted to come, they had to choose the right time. It was broad daylight now, and Sun Yilin's close friends might come to visit. It was not good to bump into them, not to mention those concubines who usually could not go out without the guidance of the head wife. My mother has only relaxed for a few days, and each of you has become wild. You dare to ignore the rules and run to the outer courtyard. You even arrogantly preach to me. Based on your current actions, I can lock you all up in the family temple. Although Sun Ijia said a few concubines, she was also hinting at them. My son is right. I have been so busy recently that I forgot. Each of you has begun to jump around. Immediately scram back. Your salary will be deducted for 3 months, and you will be grounded for 3 months. You will also have to copy the female admonition 1,000 times. Duchess Ding had not had time to change out of the heavy makeup she had put on because of receiving the imperial edict. She looked graceful and noble. With a cold face, she looked dignified without being angry. This attire was a thorn in the eyes of almost every married woman present. It was a symbol of status. Madam, you can't. A concubine who looked not much older than Sun Ijia said angrily. Do you really want to live in the family temple? Duchess Ding said coldly. Oh, by the way, you can also go to the Duke to plead for mercy. Let's see if the Duke will come to me to put in a good word for you. There was a hint of mockery and disdain in her voice. As long as there was no real problem with the inner courtyard's affairs or there was a reason for it, this man would generally not intervene. If they met a head wife who was willing to pretend to be virtuous and magnanimous, the concubines and concubines should thank the heavens. When she shed all pretense of cordiality and did not intend to play with them any more, if they dared to bump into her, it was no different from courting death. Why are you still here? Are you waiting for me, your sister-in-law, to invite you one by one? They had thought that her daughter and son had been in trouble one after another, and they heard that she quarreled with Duke Ding almost every day. Moreover, the inner courtyard of Duke Ding's mansion was really loose. They all thought that she had really lost power this time, and it was time for those young and beautiful concubines and their daughters to make a comeback. It turned out that she was not. A tiger was a tiger after all. Don't think that you can be a tyrant when it takes a nap. When it gets angry again, it can crush you to death with one paw. It seemed that not only Sun Ijia, but also the head wife of Duke Ding's mansion went crazy. They immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Even if these girls were deprived of the opportunity to go to Great Elder Princess's mansion, they did not dare to say more. Duchess Ding's face softened. Ijia, I'm sorry to make you suffer. Sun Ijia twitched the corners of her mouth, but when she thought that her mother could not see it, she no longer forced herself. After all, there was a gap between mother and daughter. Even if they seemed to be closer than before on the surface, in fact, it was not the case. Mother, I'm not wronged. Then they looked at each other speechlessly and walked into the room at the same time, trying to dispel the invisible embarrassment. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652979. HTML. Please click here to report the error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 96. At first, the mother and daughter didn't react. Before they could ask, they already understood. Sister Wan is engaged? How is that possible? It's only been a few days, and there's been no news at all. Sun Ijia found it hard to accept. Duchess Ding also opened her mouth. In fact, she was actually happy in her heart. Even if such a daughter-in-law was impeccable and she could lower her requirements for her family background, it was difficult for her to accept the fact that her son placed her at the top of his heart. But now that she saw her son in so much pain, and that he, who had never been drunk, had a pale face, she really felt extremely distressed. Yilin, it's just an engagement. If you're really not the third young lady of the Luo family, I'll think of a way to get the man to break off the engagement. Then, I'll take advantage of this time to propose marriage to the Luo family. I think the Luo family has no reason to refuse." Sun Yijia pursed her lips when she heard this. She didn't agree with her mother's domineering style, but this matter was related to the marriage of her closest brother. There were some things that she knew to be despicable, but for the people she cared about, she might still do it without hesitation. However, she still wanted to hear her fifth brother's opinion now. Sun Yilin laughed bitterly. "Mother, if I do this, what kind of person will I be? Breaking up people's karma first, and taking advantage of people's difficulties later. How many people are watching our Duke Ding's mansion? Once we do this kind of thing, it will definitely be known immediately. Bullying people can be a big or small thing. At that time, not only father, but also the Empress and the clansmen will blame mother. There are also many people watching mother, waiting for you to make a mistake. Besides, what I've been scheming is bound to be something that some people will try their best to destroy. Once these people get involved, what are the chances of me getting what I want? And in the end, it's even more likely to harm Miss Luo. I don't want to be labeled as a despicable person in her heart." "But Yilin, you're making mother's heart ache." Duchess Ding couldn't help but wipe her tears. "Mother, I'm fine. I just drank a little too much. I'll be fine after I recover." Sun Yilin closed his eyes. When he spoke again, there was endless bitterness in his voice. "In the end, my fate with her was too shallow. Yilin, don't be like this. I'll find you a better girl. I won't be stubborn. Let's not care about other people, and just find someone you like. If there's no one in the capital, we'll go outside the capital. The entire Qi Yuan dynasty is so big. How can we not find a girl you like?" "Yilin." "Mother, don't bother, I don't want to—" "Yilin." Duchess Ding interrupted him with a sharp voice. "Are you not going to marry and have children for the rest of your life? If you do this, what will happen to your mother? I painstakingly carried you for 10 months and raised you into an adult. In the end, this is how you repay me? Who did you let down?" Who did you let down?" "Mother, don't be agitated. I just don't want it for the time being. Give me a few years. Anyway, I'm not that old now. Maybe fate will come naturally when the time comes." Sun Yilin said somewhat weakly. Okay. I'll do as you say." She took the handkerchief from the servant and personally wiped his face. "Mother, I'll do it myself." Sun Yijia silently retreated. Without comparison, there was no way to know. In her mother's heart, fifth brother was indeed the most important. Wasn't this the best time to reflect a person's true thoughts? Sun Yijia inexplicably felt a little cold. She hugged her arms and rubbed them. Her wet nurse saw her like this, and her heart ached. "Good girl, why don't, wet nurse, get someone to prepare the carriage? I want to go to the Luo family." "Miss, isn't it inappropriate to go to the Luo family at this time?" The wet nurse was slightly hesitant. "Wet nurse, what are you thinking? It's just that, as an older sister, I feel that my younger sister is a little unkind. Why didn't she tell me about such a joyous occasion? She should have told me, and let me share in the joy." The wet nurse saw that her mood was still calm, and she didn't seem to be questioning her. In addition, she seemed to be a little sad, because of the madam's words and deeds again. It wasn't impossible for her to meet Miss Luo. Sun Yijia didn't know that not long after she left, Duke Dingwa returned to the manor with her other brothers. Although they didn't know the full text of the article written by Sun Yilin, they knew that it was very inappropriate. Duke Dingwa took his eldest son to see the situation of his youngest son and asked him what was going on. As the eldest brother, Sun Yibin seemed to be concerned about Sun Yilin, but in fact, he was criticizing him in all kinds of ways. He shouldn't have gone out when he was entangled with trouble. He shouldn't have written such an article and become a topic for ridicule. He shouldn't have gotten drunk and damaged the image of Duke Dingwa's mansion. And he shouldn't have troubled his mother to take care of him like this. "Sun Yibin, that's enough." Duchess Dingwa interrupted her eldest son's words with an angry roar. Even Duke Dingwa was shocked by her. Duchess Dingwa looked at him coldly. "Don't you see that your brother is suffering? Your father hasn't said anything yet. You scolded him as soon as you came in. How can you be an elder brother? Mother, it's not like that. Sun Yibin was slightly older than Prince Kong. He also had a dignified appearance, gentle and handsome, and looked like an elegant gentleman. At this time, he was as helpless as a child. You don't have to explain to me. Who doesn't know what you're thinking? You can't wait for your brother to die so that you'll be happy. Mother, why do you think so? I watched Yilin grow up. I naturally hope that he'll be well. Sun Yibin rubbed his forehead, showing a tired and sad expression that was always misunderstood by others. Don't pretend here. If you really have the slightest intention for your brother, get out of here immediately. Sun Yibin forced a smile. Mother, I know that compared with Yilin, you don't like me at all. Since Yilin was born, you have been partial to him. I didn't say anything. But do we have to quarrel like this because of Yilin? If this gets out, how many people will laugh at us? If you don't say it, how can this matter get out? These words were equivalent to saying, you're a villain. If this matter gets out, it must be you who did it. It made Sun Yibin's face turn ugly. Aren't you trying to make outsiders think that you're a filial son and a good elder brother? Yilin is suppressing you and blocking your way. You pretend to be indifferent and magnanimous, but in fact, you're trying your best to smear your brother's reputation. So what if I'm partial to him? You don't say anything. What do you have to say? Your father has always been partial to you. Did Yilin say a word? You got all the good things from your father. Do you still want to get all my care? You want to monopolize all the good things in the world? Aren't you being a little too ambitious? Sun Yibin's face was really as dark as the bottom of a pot. It was not fake at all. Madam, that's enough. Duke Ding, who had stood aside and watched, finally couldn't stand it anymore. Originally, he thought that if the mother and son talked openly, maybe they could ease the tension. After all, his wife had always been cold to his eldest son, and he was helpless. But in fact, the more they talked, the more outrageous it became, and the worse their relationship was. That's not enough. Since we've talked to this extent today, let's talk openly. Duchess Ding looked at Sun Yibin with cold eyes. You're my eldest son. Since you were born, I had great hopes for you. I tried my best to raise you. After your second brother was born, you were still young. I was worried that you would be instigated by others, so I was more devoted to you and neglected your second brother. When Yilin was born, you were already more than 10 years old. I thought that you should have the ability to distinguish right from wrong. I thought that I had let your second brother down, so I couldn't let your fifth brother down. So I took care of him more, but I never ignored you. Even so, you were still jealous of him and held a grudge against him. What's more, after he was enlightened, he showed far more intelligence than ordinary people, so you couldn't tolerate him and wanted him dead, mother. Sun Yibin's pupils contracted sharply, showing panic. He hurriedly concluded Duchess Ding's words. It seemed that he had a premonition that his next words might cause him great trouble. Duchess Ding sneered. When Yilin was 5 years old, on a cold winter day, mother. Sun Yibin even ignored his manners and reached out to cover Duchess Ding's mouth. At this time, not only did the silent Sun Yilin open his eyes, but Duchess Ding also looked sideways. Duchess Ding slapped him in the face, and Sun Yibin stepped back. You pushed your brother into the lotus pond with your own hands. Do you think I don't know? Sun Yilin widened his eyes in disbelief, and Duchess Ding was even more shocked beyond words. But seeing Sun Yibin clenched his fists and trembling all over, it meant that Duchess Ding was telling the truth. How could it be? How could it be? How black-hearted do you have to be able to kill your younger brother at such a young age? Do you know how heartbroken I was at that time? The son I worked so hard to raise was worse than a beast. It's because you're my son that I can't bear to see you taint yourself. Everyone else thinks that I'm crazy. I killed so many people because I didn't take good care of your younger brother's servants. I'm crazy. I'm crazy because of you. Yilin had a high fever and was unconscious. At that time, you looked very worried and went to see him whenever you had time. I thought you felt guilty. I thought you were just confused for a moment. I wanted to give you a chance, but what did you do? The second and third time you wanted to kill your brother. At that time, you were actually wondering why he was not dead, right? When you learned that your brother's brain might be damaged, do you think I didn't see how happy you were? After he recovered, do you think I didn't see how sorry you were? He forgot what happened before and after he fell into the water. Do you think I didn't know how lucky you were? You are such a black-hearted thing. Why should I like you and be partial to you? As for Yilin, if I didn't protect him and be partial to him, how could he live until now? Sun Yilin narrowed his eyes and looked at Sun Yibin sharply. He once thought that this elder brother of his was really good to him when they were young. It turned out that even this was fake. In fact, there was no affection between them except for that little bit of blood relationship. Brother, you are very good. Really very good. No wonder after his serious illness, his mother told him not to follow his brother. When he asked why, his mother told him that it was because his brother had grown up and had a lot of things to do. He was very busy. He believed it, but in fact, his mother wanted to protect him and separate him from his brother. Even if the affection was real, it was almost worn away, let alone fake. Then he didn't need to hesitate anymore. Sun Yibin, who had been exposed, gradually recovered from his trembling. He didn't feel guilty, nor did he want to atone for his sins. There was only indifference in his eyes. Mother, since you have hidden it from me for so many years, why don't you continue to hide it? Sure enough, Sun Yilin is your favorite. Duchess Ding was not surprised by his reaction. Continue to hide it? I watched you use endless means to deal with Yilin, and he repeatedly gave in for the sake of affection. Even when he fought back, he didn't hit hard. Not only did you not stop, but you became more and more vicious. Until now, you still don't repent. You are really incurable. I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I repent? The enemy should be completely eradicated. This is what Father taught me. Duke Dingwa took 2 steps back with a pale face. He didn't believe that this was the son he had taught. He tore off the layer of hypocrisy and turned into a beast who didn't recognize his own family. However, he had been deceived by such a beast. Is your younger brother also your enemy? Of course, anyone who wants to compete with me is my enemy. Sun Yilin is no exception. Who caused him to come to this point? If you didn't harm him again and again, would he compete with you? He still competed with me. So I did the right thing from the beginning. A person like him won't have ambition until he is dead. Sun Yibin turned to look at Sun Yilin and suddenly smiled. Yilin, you can't be like this. You are as weak as a little girl. How can you compete with me? I'm waiting for you. Let's see how capable you are to make a comeback. Then he turned to look at Duchess Ding. Father, for so many years, you refused to ask for the title of heir apparent for me. Is it because you actually like Sun Yilin more in your heart? It's just that he is still young and you are worried about him, so you deliberately suppressed him for me to see and let me put down my guard. In fact, when the time is right, you will ask for the title of heir apparent for him, so that my efforts will be in vain and I will have nothing? Fortunately, I was prepared. If I did everything according to your instructions, wouldn't I be a puppet now? Father, you are not young anymore. It's time for you to enjoy your remaining years. Let me do the more glorious things of Duke Ding's mansion. Bastard. Duchess Ding's eyes were about to crack. His blood rushed up and his face flushed. He slapped him. Sun Yibin grabbed his hand and threw it away. Father, I hope to see the memorial to ask for the title of heir apparent for me tomorrow. I still have things to do, so I'll take my leave first. Otherwise, why would you only expose me today when you already know my true colors? It's been so many years. What I want is already in my hands. If you say it now, it won't affect me at all. On the contrary, I should be thanking you. You don't have to put on an act in front of Father anymore. It's tiring to listen to his orders and be controlled by him. It's the most satisfying to be able to make your own decisions. When he came in, he still looked like a modest gentleman. When he went out, it was as if he had taken off the shackles on his body and became wanton and ostentatious. Sun Yibin's change was an unprecedented blow to Duchess Ding. Even if Sun Yilin disobeyed him, he would at most be angry. But now, he seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. What he lost was his essence, qi, and spirit. There were even signs of a stroke. Duchess Ding also lost her sharpness and coldness. With a stupefied expression, she took 2 steps back and sat on the edge of Sun Yilin's bed. After sitting for a while, she turned to look at Sun Yilin in a daze. "Yilin, I'm sorry. It's Mother's fault. If Mother had said it earlier, maybe. This was also a blow to Duchess Ding. Sometimes, it was not easy to say what was hidden in one's heart. In fact, she was the one who suffered the most and suffered the most. When she learned that her eldest son was such a person, how could she not think of correcting him? But obviously, she failed in the end. That person, from the beginning to the end, didn't think that he was wrong. He just hinted that he would only be respectful on the surface. If she made it clear to him, maybe he would hide deeper and have more vicious thoughts. Compared with the 2 of them who were on the verge of collapse, Sun Yilin was almost unaffected except for being firm in his previous practice. He didn't even worry about whether Sun Yibin had secretly controlled Duke Ding's mansion and even the Sun family. When Sun Yibin was full of confidence and seemed to have the power in his hands, he inexplicably thought of Prince Jin, Li Honyuan. Sun Yibin's ability was not small, but Duke Ding was not a fool. It was possible to do a little trick under his nose. But this kind of thing, like controlling the power of Duke Ding's mansion, was simply a big joke. Sun Yibin had not been able to become the heir for a long time. He didn't even have the confidence to paint a cake to appease people's hunger. In addition, Sun Yilin grew more and more outstanding, and was even favored by the emperor. Even if Duke Ding had always supported his eldest son, it was useless if the emperor didn't agree. Why would those people support Sun Yibin? Sun Yibin's confidence was nothing more than forcing Duke Ding to confer him the title of heir, so that he could be justified. In addition to old Madame Sun, there were also the elders of the Sun family. They may not have official positions, but they used to be high-ranking officials and made contributions to the Sun family. These people had high seniority and were respected in the family. Even as the patriarch of the Sun family, Duke Ding couldn't ignore their opinions. Instead, when they preached, he had to listen respectfully. The glory of Duke Ding's mansion was indispensable to these people. "Mother, you didn't let me down. No matter how wrong he is still your son, after all. Can you push him to his death? I am fine now, so you don't have to feel guilty. Yilin, Yilin." Duchess Ding couldn't help crying again. Why did Yilin understand his painstaking efforts? But that bastard was still stubborn. Sun Yilin waited until Duchess Ding was almost done crying before he turned to Duke Ding, who had been in a state of despair. "Father, since he wants to confer the title of heir apparent, you can write it to him when you go back." Duke Ding seemed to suddenly come to life. He almost jumped up and stared at Sun Yilin with his eyes wide open. "Now you don't want to compete with him? Are you afraid of him and want to shrink back?" Obviously, he was in line with the saying, when things reach an extreme, they will go in the opposite direction. He had been cheated so miserably and hated being robbed of his power for no reason. He hated Sun Yibin as much as he used to care about him. Naturally, he hoped that Sun Yilin could fight back strongly and hit Sun Yibin's arrogance hard. "Yilin, you don't have to be afraid. You still have me. I will confer the title of heir for you and give Duke Ding's mansion to you." Sun Yilin smiled sarcastically. "I didn't confer the title of heir for him. It's not me who oppresses him, but His Majesty," he said firmly. "Even if you give the letter to him now, I'd like to see how capable he is to change His Majesty's mind. Father, you have planned for him wholeheartedly in vain, but in the end, you are suspected by him." Sun Yilin sprinkled salt on Duke Ding's wound again, making him tremble all over. Sun Yilin didn't say anything more. The room fell into silence once again. After a long while, Duke Ding spoke again. "Yilin, what are you going to do?" "Forgive me for not telling you, Father," Sun Yilin said coldly. It was really uncomfortable to be distrusted by his son, but he couldn't get angry with his son. Yulin, you have to be careful. Your eldest brother has grown powerful and is now crazy. I'm afraid that he will kill you, without scruples. His Majesty and the Empress are there. Since he already has great power, he won't be stupid enough to go to extremes. Now he wants to see me become a stray dog wagging its tail and begging for mercy. Give him the letter, and then, as he said, take good care of yourself. Leave the rest to me. There are many people who want to fight with Duke Ding's mansion. Not one person's word. I won't be alone and helpless. Besides, there was Li Hongyuan, such a dangerous person, lurking in the dark. He wasn't sure if Sun Yibin had come to this point because of him. He didn't even know if the Sun family had been broken up by him. If so, no matter what he did now, it would be in vain. It felt like Li Hongyuan had already opened a big net, and everyone was the fish in his net. They seemed to be jumping happily, but who knew if they were not dying in another sense? What was more terrible was that these fish didn't feel anything. As the only fish who knew the truth, he couldn't tell others. On the other side, Sun Yijia arrived at the Luo family. After hearing the news, Jingwan waited for her at the second gate with a smile. Sun Yijia looked at Jingwan, who looked the same as before, and didn't know what to say. Those in power knew about what happened outside, but it hadn't spread to the inner residence. Therefore, Jingwan didn't know. However, she guessed that Sister Jia should know about her engagement. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come to the Luo family. She took Sun Yijia's arm. Sister Jia, let's go in and talk. In the begonia house, the maids had already prepared tea and snacks. In her own territory, there was no need to be reserved. Jingwan asked Sun Yijia to take off her veil. Sun Yijia didn't wear a veil to hide her embarrassment, nor did she care about other people's gazes. She just didn't want to be startled by others. She was really annoyed, so she naturally didn't have any scruples here. Jingwan looked at her wound. It was recovering well. When it fully healed in the future, it would probably protrude a little. Then, it might be whiter than normal skin. If she covered it with foundation or applied a special twining makeup around the wound, it might make her look stunning. It might even make her look popular. When she saw how careful Jingwan was with her wound, she suddenly felt that Sister Wan might have a ruthless and resolute side. Sister Wan, you deliberately hid it from me, right? It's not like I didn't write to you these few days. Even if you vaguely said something in your reply, I wouldn't have found out about your engagement from other people. Jingwan smiled calmly. You don't have to wait on me. You can all leave. I want to have a private talk with Sister Jia. Even Sun Yijia's servants bowed respectfully and then retreated in an orderly manner. Since I know Sister Jia's thoughts, I naturally have to prevent Sister Jia from causing trouble, right? Jingwan smiled a little mischievously. Then you also know my fifth brother's thoughts, right? Sun Yijia didn't buy it and continued to pursue. That Sister Jia really isn't likable at all. Sun Yijia was a little helpless in front of Jingwan like this, but she still decided to tell the truth. If she beat around the bush at this time, it would really hurt their relationship. Sister Wan, since you know, why don't you choose my fifth brother? Could it be that he can't compare to your current fiancé? He's preparing to propose marriage to you, but you gave him a head-on blow. Don't use your parents' words to fool me. I can see that Madame Luo dotes on you. If you don't want to, she won't force you. Jingwan's smile faded. Before your fifth brother came to find me today, I didn't know that he had feelings for me. But even if I knew, I wouldn't choose him. It's not that he's not good. It's that Ding General Manor isn't good. You grew up in Ding General Manor, so you should know how messy the situation is. But you're different from me. Once you marry into Ding General Manor, my fifth brother will protect you wholeheartedly and won't let anyone hurt you. Sister Jia, you have to remember that the inner residence is a woman's world. Even if it's like what you said, he can't stay by my side all the time, right? If he cares about me, I will become his weakness, and the people who compete with him will naturally want to harm me. I can't disturb his mind, but they will also think of ways to threaten him. If it is really just a conspiracy, I may be able to fight back, but there is also a situation called one strong person can defeat 10 skilled people. If they take advantage of the loophole and use the simplest and most violent method to deal with me, in that place, I will definitely not be able to call for help. Son Ija, bitter lip. Sister Wan, are you thinking too much? Our home is not a dragon's pool or a tiger's den. Because the son is too good to the daughter-in-law, the mother wants to get rid of the daughter-in-law. This kind of thing is not unheard of. Son Ija understood what she meant. With her mother's care for her fifth brother, it was really possible that she would do such a thing. Even if it seemed that she compromised now and married Sister Wan in the future, as time passed, the more she looked at her, the more unpleasant she would be to the eye. Then, Son Ija smiled a little weakly. Which inner residence doesn't have troublesome things? Sister Wan, are you sure that if you marry into another family, your life will be smooth sailing? At least it won't be worse than Ding, General Manor. In fact, I'm very tired of fighting. The reason why I can live freely in the inner courtyard of the Luo family is not because I'm very capable, but because the person with the highest power in the manor loves and protects me. If I'm constantly trapped in the inner courtyards fighting, I'll probably be driven crazy. Didn't you say that if you really have someone in your heart, you're willing to change for him, endure for him, and do anything for him? Jingwan glanced at Son Ija strangely. But I don't admire your fifth brother, so why should I keep him in my heart? Moreover, marriage is not only a matter between two people, but also a matter between two different surnames. Right now, the battle for the position of the heir is white hot. It's very unexpected that the Luo family is neutral. How can I drag them into this quagmire? The most annoying thing was that she didn't have any thoughts about her fifth brother. Son Ija felt depressed. Jingwan reached out and poked her face. What, are you angry with me? Son Ija glared at her angrily. I thought that Sister Wan was the most gentle and considerate person, but in fact, you're the most cold-hearted and frighteningly rational. I really want to see what you'll do if you fall in love with a man one day. Then I don't know. Maybe anything can happen, or maybe nothing will happen. We'll only know when the time comes. All right. Just looking at your indifferent face makes me angry. I don't care about this anymore. My fifth brother is a grown man. He won't make a fuss about it. Jingwan laughed again. Her laughter made Son Ija's anger soar to the sky, but in the blink of an eye, it was as if a basin of water had been poured over her. It's windy. It's better for you to stay away from your wound for the time being. Come in and sit down. After entering the room, Son Ija saw the paintings on the table. Wow, what kind of painting technique is this? It's so realistic and looks especially beautiful. It's a painting technique created by my older brother. It's gradually taking shape recently. I'm also learning it. He sent these paintings over and asked me to help him think about it and see if I can improve it further. Jingwan lied without blushing or skipping a beat. Son Ija recalled the hurried scene outside Begonia Elegant Residence and the humorous and refreshing scene on the way to White Dragon Temple. Her eyes flashed. I didn't expect that your older brother, who looks like a free and easy person, is actually a meticulous and emotional person. Jingwan was speechless. Perhaps he was a meticulous and emotional person. As for this meticulous mind, forget it. Son Ija flipped through the paintings one by one. Because Jingwan's previous paintings were mostly flowers and trees, when Luo Jingwa started, he also started from this aspect. However, after he had more or less mastered the technique, he would also add animals, mountains, and other objects into the painting. Although it was few, but the finished product of each painting was very good. The more Son Ija looked at it, the more she liked it. Unfortunately, I don't have much time. After marriage, it's even more impossible. Otherwise, I would also learn properly. Jingwan's eyes flashed. If Jin Qinhuang's words were true, Jia Jijia, you would probably become an old disaster. That would not be able to get married. Jingwan saw that Son Ija was holding her older brother's painting and was reluctant to part with it. Suddenly, an idea popped up in her mind. She had always wanted her to be her sister-in-law. Why couldn't she abduct her back to be her sister-in-law? Even if Sun Yijia's face was damaged, in Jingwan's eyes, she was still a good girl that was hard to come by. Just because her face was disfigured, she was looked down upon and trampled into the mud. How unfair was that? Could it be that she couldn't compare to a straw-bag beauty? Moreover, her older brother, no matter what, really didn't care much about a person's beauty or ugliness. She had heard before that her older brother didn't have many requirements for his wife. Her temperament was better, and she wasn't that kind of troublemaker. As long as it wasn't a big and coarse person that was unbearably ugly, he could basically accept it. To put it nicely, he was open-minded. To put it bluntly, he was insensitive. If it was before Jia Jiejia's face was disfigured, she wouldn't have thought of this. If Jin Qinhuang broke off the engagement, she was afraid that the marriage would be even more difficult. No one would be willing or even dare to marry her. And if she participated in the marriage disruption, if her older brother married her as his wife, Jin Qinhuang probably wouldn't do anything. Then it would be a lot easier. The interest of these two families would also be a lot weaker, because Sun Yijia didn't have any value. Although it might be a bit unkind to think this way, and even suspected of taking advantage of someone's perilous state, it was also the truth. Thinking about it carefully, their family was actually quite suitable for Jia Jieji. No matter what, her father didn't care about anything, and her mother was a young girl's heart who was easily swayed. In their branch, Yinyang could be considered to be well-behaved. Jia Jiejia's temperament wasn't bad. She grew up in Dingwa Gongfu and was trained according to the standards of a Qinhuang Fei. Her skills definitely weren't bad, and she was more than enough to protect her mother in the Luo family's inner courtyard. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that there wasn't a better candidate than her. However, even so, it was still very difficult for her to handle this matter. Moreover, she had to wait until Jin Qinhuang settled the marriage. Before that, she couldn't even mention it to her grandmother. Of course, the most important thing was to know Jia Jiejia's wishes. Just as she was thinking, a servant girl came in to report. "Miss, third young master is looking for you." "What is he doing here at this time? Doesn't he know that I have guests here?" Jingwan glanced at Sun Yijia and saw that she was startled. "Is it that brother of yours? Hurry and go take a look. Maybe there's something urgent." Without waiting for Jingwan to speak, Sun Yijia reached out to push her. It seemed that she was more anxious than her own younger sister. Jingwan was slightly confused. It couldn't be that when she had the idea of matchmaking the two of them, this one really had the idea. "Okay, I'll go take a look. I'll be back soon. Don't worry, it doesn't matter if I wait." Jingwan really wanted to roll her eyes. After going out, Luo Jinghua held a large roll of paper in both hands. "Third brother, what is this for?" "Hurry, hurry, hurry, let me borrow the study." Luo Jinghua didn't dare to ignore Jingwan's study. Jingwan was also puzzled by his impatience and hurriedly followed him. Jingwan's study was spacious and specially arranged to be a place for painting. A piece of paper that was a zhang long could be spread out completely after casually tidying it up. "Little sister, hurry and help me take a look. I keep feeling that something is wrong." Before Jingwan walked in, she saw a half-completed painting of birds looking up to a phoenix. The layout was just right, and the whole thing was majestic. Every bird in the details was vivid and lifelike, and the main body of the phoenix could be said to be vivid, not to mention the dreamlike beauty of the background. This was just a simple color. Jingwan didn't expect that Luo Jinghua could have such achievements in fine brushwork in such a short time. "Little sister, I've adjusted the color of the phoenix several times, but I still feel that something is wrong. Let me take a look." Jingwan stepped forward. Luo Jinghua used a light yellow as the base color of the phoenix. This was to turn the phoenix into a golden color. This color was more difficult to control. If it was too light or too thick, it would look dull, and if it was too bright, it would feel gaudy. It was not suitable for the solemn atmosphere of the king of birds. Jingwan thought for a while and stood in front of the shelf where she displayed her paints. After a moment of silence, she took out a few colors and began to mix them. He had forgotten that there was still a guest in the courtyard. Sun Yijia didn't mind waiting for a while, but if she waited for too long, would little sister Wan really not treat her as an outsider? After asking where Jingwan was, and knowing that the Luo family's third young master was still there, and that they were painting, Sun Yijia still walked into the study after hesitating for a while. However, when she saw the painting of the person who had his head lowered and was painting seriously, Sun Yijia's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. It seemed that in order not to disturb him, Sun Yijia couldn't help but slow down her breathing as she walked closer. After Luo Jinghua finished coloring the tail feathers, he vaguely felt that there was someone in front of him and thought that it was Jingwan. "Little sister, what do you think?" Then he raised his head and met Sun Yijia's eyes. Luo Jinghua was startled and then said apologetically, "Hello, Miss Sunday. I'm sorry. I forgot that you were still here. Please forgive me." Sun Yijia instinctively covered her face. Her face was a little red as she said softly, "No. Miss Sun, the wound on your face hasn't healed yet, right? Don't use so much force or else it'll hurt." His words were very natural and pure. There was no shock, sympathy, or disgust in his voice. Jingwan raised her head and looked at the two of them. "Say, is it really okay for a man like you to casually speak about the wound on a girl's face?" However, looking at Sister Jia's expression, it didn't seem like he had poked her wound, but her heart instead. Sun Yijia didn't put her hand down. "Young Master Luo, don't you think it's ugly?" Now, for some reason, she cared about her face more than ever. There was even a trace of regret that she didn't notice. "There's nothing ugly about it. The damage has already been done. It doesn't matter if it's ugly." Seeing Sun Yijia's red eyes and tears gathering in her eyes, Jingwan used to think that there was nothing wrong with her brother being insensitive. Now, she wanted to beat him up. He was simply a blockhead. "Bastard, how could you say that?" Luo Jinghua lowered his head and looked at his painting. He didn't see Sun Yijia's expression. "However, you girls might care a lot about this kind of thing. Actually, I don't think it's necessary. No matter how beautiful a person is, if she has a heart of snakes and scorpions, no one will like her. On the contrary, even if her appearance is damaged, as long as she has a good heart, even if others can't accept her for a while, they will genuinely like her after a long time." "Really?" Sun Yijia asked in surprise. "Fine, it was a lucky hit." She worried for nothing. "Yes," Luo Jinghua answered very casually, but he didn't know that he might have stirred up a pool of spring water. "Little sister, go accompany Miss Sunday. I'll think about it myself." "It's okay. You guys go ahead. I'll just watch. It's actually quite enjoyable to watch you guys draw." Sun Yijia hurriedly waved her hand. Luo Jinghua was one of them. "Since you're happy, you can do whatever you want." It wasn't like a man and a woman were alone in a room. He didn't want to deliberately avoid arousing suspicion. He always felt that it was unnecessary. When it was necessary to avoid arousing suspicion, he should avoid it. But since they had already met, it was naturally fine. He thought that his actions were righteous and upright. There was no need to be so harsh. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652980. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Com mobile version reading website, mbicken.com. Chapter 97. Sun Yijia could also tell that the third son of the Luo family was very good at painting, but he was lacking in color mixing. However, after seeing how Jingwan mixed colors, she realized that it wasn't that the third son of the Luo family couldn't mix colors, but that Jingwan was just as good at it as she was at growing flowers, making cosmetics, and making vases. She was simply too good at it. The third son of the Luo family was actually at the same level as most people who were good at painting, but when compared to Jingwan, he seemed to be a little lacking. However, The painting method that the third son of the Luo family created had a higher requirement for colors than freehand brushwork. If the colors weren't mixed well, it could ruin a good painting. Sun Yijia moved to Jingwan's side and said, "Jingwan, you can mix 10 to 20 different colors with just one color. And it seems like you can even subdivide it further. Isn't that too amazing? How did you do it? Do you have any techniques?" Not many people can learn this little sister's skill. Even if they know how to mix colors, they can't achieve the same effect as her. Luo Jinghua didn't mind that he was inferior to his little sister in this aspect. "You're painting. If you don't speak, no one will think that you're mute." Jingwan looked up and glared at him. Then, Luo Jinghua obediently shut up and lowered his head to continue painting. Ever since he took advantage of his little sister, Luo Jinghua felt that he had lost his status and confidence. His grandfather warned him every day, and his father also exhorted him from time to time. As the little sister, she climbed over her brother's head and acted like a tyrant. People's hearts really weren't what they used to be. He could be seen shaking his head as he painted while muttering to himself. Sun Yijia covered her mouth and laughed. Jingwan wanted to knock him on the head. When there were other girls around, would it kill him to be serious? He usually looked like a very smart person, but why did he drop the ball at such a crucial time? Didn't he know that it would ruin his image if he played tricks at such a time? Also, don't think that I don't know that you're talking bad about me just because I can't hear you. Sun Yijia saw Jingwan's dark face and obediently covered her mouth to show that she wasn't laughing. Jingwan glared at her again. "Hide the smile that was about to overflow from your eyes, and it would look more like it." Sun Yijia was afraid that Jingwan would really fly into a rage out of humiliation, so she quickly changed the topic back to color mixing. Jingwan naturally wouldn't really get angry. "Luo Jinghua, it's really." Sun Yijia was silent for a while. "Luo's right. Luo's right." Sun Yijia was silent for a moment. "It seems that third young master Luo is right. You really can't learn this skill. I'm afraid that you have to spend a long time to ponder over it and try it out yourself. Moreover, you have used so many different raw materials, just like this." Sun Yijia picked up a piece of hard block that was like a stone, but stuck together piece by piece. The same color block has different colors. That is to say, every time you mix the colors, you may need to change the materials. You can't do it step by step. You really need to be flexible. Actually, if you know some conventional primary color combinations, what color is mixed with what color is what color, over time, you'll be able to figure out some skills that belong to you. Jingwan then mixed the colors while telling Sun Yijia how to mix them. Once there was something to do, time seemed to pass very quickly. Looking at Phoenix's overall color, Luo Jinghua felt that it would not be good for him to stay for too long. Even if he and Sun Yijia did not mind, they would not be able to shut the mouths of the people outside. The words of the masses could melt gold, and the accumulation of words could destroy the bones. Under Mama Gong's reminder, Luo Jinghua could only put down the brush regretfully. "Little sister, I'll leave this painting with you. I'll come back to finish it when I have time. But it seems that I'll need you to help me mix the colors. Just this once. Don't do it again. Go back and figure out how to mix the colors yourself. You can't always need my help when you paint in the future." "Yes, yes, yes." Luo Jinghua hurriedly agreed. He even clasped his hands in front of Jingwan to thank his little sister for her selfless help. Sun Yijia faintly looked at Luo Jinghua. Her eyes kept flashing. Then, she looked at Jingwan and calmed down. "Why don't I go back first? After all, I don't have anything serious to do." "Don't worry. My third older brother is like this. He gets anxious easily when he doesn't solve a problem. Once it's solved, he doesn't have to worry about anything. Don't be fooled by how enthusiastic he was just now. Right now, he can just leave this painting here and not care about it for half a month." Jingwan was definitely a member of the vanguard when it came to exposing her brother's shortcomings. Although Luo Jinghua was a little embarrassed, he didn't get angry. The truth was just as his little sister said. "Then I'll go first." After bowing properly, He left in a carefree manner. He didn't look back at all. Little sister Wan, has your brother always been like this? Yes, he's always been heartless. How can you say that about your brother? Sun Yijia reached out and gently pinched her waist. Jingwan shrank back. It didn't hurt, but it was a little ticklish. What are you doing? He's my own brother. I didn't even say anything, but you're already protecting him. Sun Yijia didn't know if it was because she was angry, embarrassed, or guilty, but her face turned red. You really dare to say anything with that mouth of yours. She made a move to pinch her mouth again. Jingwan hurriedly dodged. The two of them laughed and played together again. When their young miss was happy, the servants were naturally happy as well. After the two of them left, Nurse Gong left two servant girls behind to help tidy up the study. Before the meticulous brushwork technique was spread out, every painting here, even if it was just a scrap, was very important and couldn't be lost. Sun Yijia stayed at Jingwan's place until late in the evening. She had no choice but to leave. Jingwan told her to bring the rouge and powder that she had prepared for her. Little sister Wan, I'm afraid I won't have a chance to come here in the future. Sun Yijia had a deep sense of loneliness. How good would it be if I could always be so carefree? It's just that, to me, this way of thinking is too extravagant. Big sister Jia, don't be like this. Perhaps things won't be that bad. Perhaps there will be a turn for the better. That's right. No matter how bad things are, I have to walk on with my head held high. With such an open-minded and tenacious little sister like you, if I, as your older sister, am too weak, wouldn't I be embarrassing you? Sun Yijia put away her loneliness and smiled. Don't worry. I definitely won't be half dead like I was when I met you. Big sister Jia, believe me, it will definitely get better. Little sister Wan, sometimes your words make people feel that they will come true. Jingwan smiled non-committally. Sun Yijia returned to Duke Ding's mansion somewhat absent-mindedly. Unexpectedly, Duchess Ding and Sun Yilin were waiting for her in her courtyard. Moreover, looking at her fifth brother, it seemed that he had not completely sobered up. What had happened this time? Little sister, do you already know? Sun Yilin saw that she was not in a good mood, and there was a hint of sadness between her brows. Before she could greet him, he spoke first. Mother, fifth brother, what do I know? Did something happen? Sun Yijia was puzzled. Duchess Ding got up and stepped forward. She hugged Sun Yijia and began to cry again. My poor daughter, Sun Yijia was stupefied. Her mother had never been a weak person. In the past 10 years, she had never seen her cry. However, during this period of time, her tears seemed to be free. That's right. A woman's world was only in the inner courtyard. Once it involved the outside world and the imperial court, no matter how strong a woman in the inner courtyard was, she would be helpless. Mother, don't cry. Tell me, what bad thing happened? It was Sun Yilin who gave her the answer directly. His Majesty issued a decree to marry Ruan Fangfei, the youngest daughter of the Grand Secretary, to Jin Qinhuang as its Sifei. Sun Yijia flatly said, "Oh," indicating that she understood. There was no more reaction. In Duchess Ding's view, Sun Yijia was a typical example of completely disheartened. She didn't care about anything anymore. Yijia, don't be like this. What should I do if you call your mother like this? Sun Yilin knew that his sister had not reached that step, but he was not clear about what she was thinking. Mother, don't cry. Little sister, Ruan Fangfei is different from others. Her talent and beauty are first class. She entered Jin Qinhuang Fu. Fifth brother, so what? Without her, can I establish myself in Jin Qinhuang Fu? Therefore, whether it is her or someone else, the nature is the same. Moreover, His Majesty has already issued a decree, so there is no room to reverse it. Do what you should do. There is no need to worry about these things that are already destined. Sun Yijia waved her hand carelessly. Since she said so, Sun Yilin couldn't say anything. However, things that are destined might not necessarily be. Jin Qinhuang was always an uncertain factor. Although he said that he didn't want to marry his sister, don't want to marry, and don't marry were two different things. Who knew what he would do in the end? People who never acted according to common sense were the most troublesome. Mother, you go ahead. I have a few words to say to little sister. Son Yilin opened his mouth and sent Duchess Ding away. With a brother and sister together, Duchess Ding naturally had nothing to worry about. After exhorting a few words, she left. What does fifth brother want to say to me? Sun Yijia sat down and poured a glass of water for herself. In fact, I just want to ask, did little sister encounter something in the Luo family? Or did you quarrel with Miss Luo because of me? If that's the case, little sister, you may be a bit reckless. Miss Luo did not do anything wrong in this matter. I don't want you to lose this rare confidant because of me. Sun Yijia held the cup and was lost in thought. Sun Yilin called her twice before she came back to her senses. With her like this, if she said that there was nothing wrong, no one would believe it. Sun Yilin's eyes showed concern. Fifth brother, there's nothing wrong. Wan Mimi and I are very good. Then, why are you in low spirits and seem to have a lot on your mind? Sun Yijia was silent. Is there anything else that you can't say to fifth brother? Sun Yijia suddenly couldn't help but shed tears. This time, Sun Yilin was really shocked. She cried when she complained about their mother after she was injured. After that, even when she was bestowed a marriage, even when she returned to the Fu, she didn't shed a single tear in the face of many people's ridicule. Little sister, don't cry. What happened? Tell fifth brother. Fifth brother will help you find a way. Sun Yijia wiped away her tears. On the eve of my wedding, I suddenly realized that I might have fallen in love with a man, but that person isn't the one I'm going to marry. Sun Yilin was stunned. He didn't think that it would be like this. He had always thought that his little sister had a cold personality and high standards, so she didn't take a fancy to any of the outstanding young masters in the capital. It should be known that other girls had their first awakening of love at the age of 12 or 13, or even earlier, but she didn't blush when she saw Prince Kang, even though she knew that she had secretly reached an agreement to be Prince Kang's consort. Who? The third young master of the Luo family, Wan Mimi's older brother. It was another unexpected answer. After the trip to White Dragon Temple, Sun Yilin was naturally no stranger to Luo Jinghua. He was indeed a person with a completely different temperament from them. Perhaps there was a reason why his little sister fell in love with him. It turned out that she never had high standards. Instead, she yearned for a simple and ordinary life. She admired people who were simple but had a good temperament. Little sister, don't be anxious. Your marriage might take a turn for the better. Wait. Fifth brother, you don't blame me? Why should I blame you? It's already impossible between me and Luo Gunyang. Don't tell me that you're not allowed to admire the Luo family's men. Other than Luo Shangshu, the other members of the Luo family might not have much achievements. But in terms of family style, the Luo family was something that many large families couldn't reach. Before, he didn't pay attention and didn't know. But after paying attention, he found out that in the entire capital, there were actually very few middle and lower level officials who were willing to marry their daughters into the Luo family. And Luo Jinghua just happened to be the most popular one. So many people have taken a fancy to him. It shows that he's really not bad. It's understandable that little sister would take a fancy to him. Sun Yijia was somewhat bashful, but with some hope. Fifth brother, you said that there might be a turn for the better. How likely is it? Sun Yilin looked at her appearance. Even if she didn't care very much, that Luo Jinghua should have made her more or less interested. Apologies, little sister, I didn't know. He never thought that there would be a day where he would place all his hopes on Jin Qinwang. Wan Mimi also said that there might be a turn for the better. Maybe I should believe you guys. Because of this little bit of expectation, Sun Yijia's heartbeat sped up. Sun Yilin's thoughts turned. You saw Luo Sengongzi today? Sun Yijia nodded. He was looking for Wan Mimi today. We just happened to bump into each other. It was hard to say the specifics. After all, it was a painting method that hadn't been circulated yet. Just based on that unfinished painting, one could faintly foresee the sensation it would bring when it was unveiled. Did Luo Gunyang see through your thoughts? I don't know. I felt that I had restrained myself as much as possible. But you know, Wan Mimi is meticulous and clever. It's inevitable that she would see some clues. Fifth brother, say, if she knew, would she be unhappy? I'm a disfigured girl who still has an engagement and is even about to get married. Yet, I shamelessly took a fancy to her older brother. Son Ijia wanted to cry again as she spoke. Therefore, it was easy for people to be fragile when it came to matters of the heart. It was either sad or happy, worrying about gains and losses. She won't. You still don't know what kind of person she is? That's right, Wan Mimi is so good, but I, Xiao Mei, go to grandmother's place. She sent someone to find you before. Sun Yilin didn't want to see her like this. His heart was tired, and he was easily affected by her emotions. I know. Not long after Sun Ijia left, Jingwan also found out about everything that happened today from Gong Momo. Sun Yilin got drunk at Untitled Pavilion and acted wildly. Regarding this, Jingwan was silent. The result of the emperor's handling of the love triangle. Sure enough, Jin Qinhuang was Lu Qingdi's treasure. Lu Qingdi issued an edict to bestow Yuan Fangfei to Jin Qinhuang as its Cifei. Our emperor dislikes the Grand Secretary Darren for being too loyal to him, so he wants to push him out? Jingwan was speechless for a long time before she opened her mouth. In fact, she wanted to say, did water enter Lu Qingdi's brain, or did he have a stroke? Gong Momo knew that this matter was most likely related to the imperial Gui Fei Nyang and Jin Qinhuang, but she didn't know the specifics. At that time, she was actually just a small palace made without any power or influence. She was only around 10 years old and offended someone not long after entering the palace. Because she knew some martial arts and didn't know the dangers of the palace, she acted ruthlessly in anger. As a result, she suffered from retaliation. If it wasn't for the imperial Gui Fei Nyang saving her, she would have died in a dry well. However, she didn't know if there was a problem at the imperial Gui Fei side at that time. She didn't stay by her Nyang side. Instead, she had an aunt secretly teach her martial arts, teach her all kinds of rules and etiquette, as well as medicine, nourishing the body, and so on. She didn't know if it was because she was worried that there wouldn't be enough time and couldn't teach her everything, so she had her memorize some books. It didn't matter if she wasn't literate. Her aunt would read a sentence, and she would read it, letting her memorize it in the future. Fortunately, she had a good memory and put in 120% of her effort to learn. The last time she saw the imperial Gui Fei Nyang, she had a big belly and smiled especially gently. She patted her head as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, she only said, I hope these things can help you live well in the palace. Then, the next day, the bad news of the imperial Gui Fei Nyang's death came. It was also because everything was done in secret that she wasn't purged after the imperial Gui Fei Nyang's death. The imperial Gui Fei Nyang might have exhausted her mental and physical strength to protect her. After all, Lu Qingdi couldn't wait to tie her to his waist at all times. Nanny Gong didn't know how the imperial Gui Fei died, but she knew it was definitely not a postpartum hemorrhage. Nanny Gong gritted her teeth. She didn't want to find out the truth on impulse and avenge the imperial Gui Fei because she knew very well that she was alone and couldn't do anything. She would die in vain. She wasn't afraid of death, but she thought that she hadn't repaid the imperial Gui Fei for saving her life. At that time, she vaguely understood that the imperial Gui Fei might want her to leave someone for a child. So, she lay dormant in the palace. Although she couldn't find out the mystery of the imperial Gui Fei's death, she knew a lot of dirty things in the harem. Originally, she just wanted to watch the sixth prince in secret. After all, imperial Gui Fei was really good to him. Until one day, the sixth prince suddenly came to her after he was 10 years old. He showed his extraordinary wisdom and frightening means. Only then did she know how terrifying this little master, who looked just a little smarter and more mischievous than other princes, was. However, Nanny Gong wasn't afraid. On the contrary, she was very excited because she had a chance to avenge the imperial Gui Fei. Then, Nanny Gong fell into an abyss of suffering that was countless times more painful than before. Fortunately, she could basically read. Even if the little master threw one book after another at her, she could grit her teeth and finish reading it in the allotted time. Then, she turned it into her own things. Her martial arts didn't deteriorate during these years. This kind of life lasted for 6 years. The little master grew from a 10-year-old boy to a 16-year-old boy. From an androgynous boy, he was so beautiful that people couldn't take their eyes off him. Then, he gradually showed the heroic bearing of a man. He was conferred the title of king and opened his residence. He only used a small trick to make these people follow him out of the palace. After another 4 years, he transformed into a real man. He was handsome, and the most handsome man in the capital. However, his temperament and some of his actions were really hard to agree with. From a little devil to a devil incarnate, and then gradually to a living king of hell, his temperament became more and more unpredictable. He was cold and ruthless. His only gentleness was given to a little girl who was thousands of miles away. It was hard to understand why he would care about a little girl who he had never seen before. However, he himself was a mystery, so there was no need to investigate too much. Her second master asked her to change her identity when he was 20 years old to serve his third master. She changed from a secret guard to a nanny. However, this didn't matter to her. However, she couldn't tell the girl about these things. As for whether the living king of hell would explain it to the girl in the future, it was up to him. She was just a servant and had no right to interfere. When Li Hongyuan received the imperial edict, his face didn't look very good. Although in his plan, he was prepared to make Ruan Fangfei his quasi-concubine. The change was consistent with his plan, but it was not the result of his control. It was inevitable that he was unhappy. However, his father's decision was not absolutely unexpected. Those who didn't know the truth were wondering if Lu Chengdi had any deep meaning in doing so. As for those who knew the truth, he had no deep meaning. Wasn't it because he gave his son a disfigured princess and felt that the best compensation was to give him a beautiful and perfect woman? In the whole capital, among the unmarried girls, Ruan Ruizhong's youngest legitimate daughter was the most suitable. Therefore, he made the imperial edict without saying anything or asking for anyone's opinion. If he was in his normal state, how could he make such an imperial edict? Didn't he see the things prepared to compensate Li Hongyuan a few days ago? Even if they were priceless, they were still inanimate objects. He had never mentioned a beautiful woman. After these 2 days, he was afraid that he would beat his chest and stamp his feet in regret. As the Grand Secretary of the Cabinet, Ruan Ruizhong belonged to the neutral faction, but he was also loyal to the emperor. His loyalty was always to the emperor. Now Emperor Lu Chengdi gave his beloved daughter to a bastard prince and a concubine. To put it bluntly, she was just a concubine. Emperor Lu Chengdi, how dissatisfied were you with him to do such a thing? Those few who knew the truth were imagining how guilty Lu Chengdi would be when Elder Ruan questioned Lu Chengdi in 2 days. Elder Ruan was his real right-hand man and a trusted minister. He was not like Duke Ding, who would be killed if he could be killed. Lu Chengdi might even hope that his bastard son would do it again, so that he could pretend to be helpless, lose his dignity, and withdraw the imperial edict. However, in the eyes of the world, Li's chances of becoming an emperor were very slim. Li Hongyuan was originally a man who loved beauties. He did not make a move on those noble ladies because he still had some misgivings in his heart. Now that he could legitimately have such a great beauty with a noble status and outstanding talent, he would be a fool to give up. Yes, Li Hongyuan also asked himself how stupid he was to give up so many beauties and wholeheartedly hang himself on a crooked tree called Luo Jingwan. But there was no other way. He was too deeply poisoned. Only Luo Jingwan was the antidote. The imperial edict had been thrown to a corner by Li Hongyuan to collect dust. Looking at the message from Luo Manor, Li Hongyuan also wanted to know how Wan Wan would react when she admired a man. No, she admired him. She was rational and tenacious. Except for the people closest to her, it was difficult for her to be moved by outsiders. In the previous life, even if she made such a big sacrifice for her husband's family, he wasn't sure whether she liked her husband because he couldn't see the slightest bit from her words and deeds. Was it because of her principles or because of some inexplicable persistence? He hoped that she wasn't moved. Although it might be difficult for him to move her heart, he was ready to keep grinding. As for whether she was moved or not, he wouldn't be able to find out the answer. There was no need to continue struggling. Others might not be able to see it, but who was Nurse Gong? She had already faintly sensed her young Mrs. Plan. It was even easier to see Sun Ijia's emotions. I originally wanted her to be your sister-in-law. After her face was disfigured, I wanted to find a better one for your older brother. But you've already made your own plans. Li Hongyuan flicked the letter with a doting and helpless smile. This prince will naturally achieve what you want. Remember to properly compensate this prince in the future. However, you want this prince to break off the engagement with Sun Ijia, but you want her to be your sister-in-law. Do you think that this prince is inferior to your older brother? This prince will remember this debt. We'll slowly settle it in the future. As for Sun Ijia's wishes, what was that? Since the prospective secondary consort was already in place, then the prospective Wangfei could naturally be dealt with ahead of time. Reading to the end, he knew that Luo Jingguo's famous painting was about to be born. However, he didn't expect that this painting also had a huge contribution from Wan Wan. His brother-in-law had taken advantage of his wife again. In the future, if he didn't capture him and make him a slave, Li Hongyuan, would write his name backwards. Master, the things that Imperial Consort Nyang sent people to deliver have already been packed. Look, that table of food. It's your reward. Li Hongyuan expressionlessly waved his hand. Yes. Today was the death anniversary of the Imperial Consort. So naturally, it was also Li Hongyuan's birthday. However, from his birth until now, he had never celebrated his birthday because it would anger Lu Qingdi. When Li Hongyuan was young, he didn't know anything. He watched other people celebrate their birthdays happily, received gifts, and also made a fuss about celebrating his birthday. He was beaten by Lu Qingdi more than once. Later, he learned to remain silent on this day every year. Even when Lu Qingdi wanted to celebrate his birthday, he refused. Thus, over time, everyone thought that he didn't want to celebrate his birthday because of his biological mother. Gradually, except for a few people, almost everyone, including Lu Qingdi, forgot his birthday. Lu Qingdi would always only remember the death anniversary of the Imperial Consort. Only Imperial Consort Su would personally make a bowl of longevity noodles for him every year, and then prepare a table of noodles for him that he liked. It wasn't that she wasn't moved, but after some things were exposed, her true feelings were more like a joke. In Li Hongyuan's previous life, the best birthday gift was a set of clothes made for him by Jingwan. It was also during the period when she saved his life to recuperate. She used the best cloth available and suddenly sent it to him when he didn't notice. There was no complicated embroidery. It was just cut and made into clothes. She was calm. She didn't know how to embroider, but the stitching of that set of clothes was done very well, and it unexpectedly fit him well. Then, Jingwen used all the edible wild vegetables and game she could find to make a table of noodles that was said to be sumptuous under the circumstances at that time. Of course, it was far inferior to the cooking skills of the chef. Some of it could be said that it was barely edible. However, Li Hongyuan almost cleaned up the table of dishes. In this life, Li Hongyuan actually knew that Wan was really not good at cooking and needlework. Master, this is sent by the female protector. Eunuch Mu presented a small box to Li Hongyuan. Li Hongyuan knew that Nurse Gong was very dissatisfied with his behavior, especially after Wan came to the capital. When she was his subordinate before, even if she was dissatisfied, she would not show it. Now, she was almost directly fighting with him. It was really strange that she would send something to him today. Li Hongyuan took it and opened it casually. There was a letter on it, and there seemed to be something like a brocade handkerchief under it. After unfolding the letter and reading it, Li Hongyuan's face changed immediately. He closed the box fiercely and looked at Eunuch Mu coldly. "Get out." Eunuch Mu hurriedly left, thinking, what did the female protector give to the master that made him want to kill me? Li Hongyuan threw the letter aside and burned it. He opened the box and then unfolded the thing inside with both hands. This was a belly band. It was said that Jingwan personally made the belly band for herself. It was the only clothes she made for herself, and the only finished needlework she made. Li Hongyuan stared at the white undergarment with a serious face. He did not doubt that it was made by Jingwan at all. He was very familiar with the stitches on the edge. Just by looking at this, people who did not know would think that she was an expert in this field. But looking at the pattern inside, although it was not too terrible to look at, it was not much better. This should be a kitten playing with an embroidered ball, right? Li Hongyuan was not too sure. After all, the kitten's outline was only roughly embroidered, and it was a little crooked. As for the embroidered ball, it was better not to talk about it. Li Hongyuan put the undergarment in his arms and went back to the bedroom. Except that his pace was a little fast, Eunuch Mu did not see anything strange. Needless to say, a certain king of hell liked this gift very much, and he almost turned into a beast. If Nanny Gong's purpose was to think that he was not angry enough and wanted to use this undergarment to stimulate him, then Nanny Gong's purpose had been achieved, and it was seriously overdone. Not to mention how Lu Chengdi almost pulled out his beard and hair these days. He even secretly asked people to invite Li Hongyuan to the palace. Yes, it was an invitation, but this bastard did not give him any face. In the end, Elder Ruan was reasonable and said that the emperor's order could not be disobeyed, and the emperor's power could not be swept away. The emperor was the emperor. For the officials, thunder and rain were the emperor's grace. It was the blessing of the emperor to give his daughter a marriage. Lu Chengdi's heart was as carefree as drinking a bowl of ice soup on a hot summer day. Such a good official must be rewarded. He also said that on the day Ruan Fangfei married into the Jin mansion, except that she was not popular, the rest of the treatment was the same as the princess who married into the Jin mansion. This was to raise the value of Ruan Fangfei, and it was also to slap the face of Ding General Manor. Naturally, some families were happy and some were sad. For this matter, Ruan Ruizong had no opinion at all. Li Hongyuan did not believe it. In the end, the reason why he could accept this matter without being angry was that he was persuaded by Ruan Fangfei, except for being loyal to the emperor. The reason was nothing more than that. In addition, Ruan Ruizong loved Ruan Fangfei very much. He knew that she had feelings for Li Hongyuan. In addition, things had come to this point, so he could only help her. And he was very clear that if he really had a tough attitude and opposed this marriage, it would definitely not be Lu Chengdi who compromised in the end. If he really annoyed Lu Chengdi, he would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. As a minister, no matter where you climb, unless your power could overpower the emperor or even overturn a dynasty, you should always remember one thing. The emperor is the emperor, and the minister is the minister. If you really dared to accept all the benefits given by the superior and became arrogant because of the favor, then you were not far from death. Ruan Ruizong was able to climb to today's position and stay out of the treacherous vortex of fighting for the throne. Was it really just because of his super ability and skill, and did not have the slightest intention of flattering and currying favor? As for the article submitted by Sun Ijia, Lu Chengdi seemed to directly suppress it. He did not reprimand Sun Ijia, nor did he attach more importance to him. It was like before, as if nothing had happened. Because there was no such thing in the previous life, Li Hongyuan did not know if there would be a follow-up. But whether there was or not, it had nothing to do with him. If it involved Chen Zhengmin and then Wan Wan, he would find a way to clean up the mess. Therefore, there was no need to care about it for the time being. And he just needed to wait quietly. Great Elder Princess was the biological sister of Lu Chengdi, and she had a good relationship with Lu Chengdi. After Lu Chengdi ascended the throne, he conferred her the title of Great Elder Princess. What was rare was that she was very noble and had a good temperament. In addition, her husband was the son of an aristocratic family with outstanding talent, character, and appearance. Compared with others, he was more indulgent and free and unrestrained. What was more, he took the initiative to marry Great Elder Princess. After marriage, they were deeply in love with each other. The only thing that made her unhappy was that her husband had a cousin who was his childhood sweetheart and had lost her parents at a young age. It was obvious what the result would be in such a situation. She did not want to be estranged from her husband. So even if she was a princess, she had to be virtuous and generous. Such a person, even if she did not have power, many people wanted to draw her to their side. Unfortunately, for so many years, Great Elder Princess's mansion had always been neutral. She did not take sides with any side and lived her own life leisurely. Because her husband did not like it, the mansion rarely invited guests. Most of the guests who visited the mansion were the relatives of the royal family and her husband's relatives. Great Elder Princess's birthday was such a rare opportunity to curry favor with her. So few people would miss it. Even those who did not want to curry favor with her would not be absent for no reason because of His Majesty. After all, as long as there were guests at Great Elder Princess's birthday banquet, Lu Qingdi would definitely reward them. Who dared not to give face to His Majesty? Therefore, this banquet was definitely one of the most lively banquets in the capital city. It would gather all kinds of people, including those who were neutral. The period before the banquet naturally belonged to the regular flower appreciation banquet, which was for the girls to compete with each other and show off their talents. It was for the young masters to compete with each other, whether in order to attract girls or to attract the attention of a certain lord. It was for the ladies to make friends with each other, and if they had children of the right age, they could look at each other. It was for the lords to suppress their opponents and win over their allies. These things were carried out so blatantly. As the birthday girl, Great Elder Princess happily received the congratulatory gifts from everyone, listened to all kinds of free flattery, looked at the gorgeously dressed girls, and praised the handsome boys of each family. Anyway, she did not have any children of the right age, so she did not have to worry about them at all. No matter whether they were immortals or demons, if something happened, they would not be blamed on her. The reason was that there were too many people today, and the mansion of Great Elder Princess was not staffed enough. She simply borrowed people from the Ministry of Internal Affairs to help her. Her people did not care about anything except greeting the guests, taking what the guests needed, and leading the way. As for the girls of the Luo family, as long as they were over 10 years old, including the Luo Jingying, who was getting closer and closer to the wedding, Madame Luo allowed them to come out together to see the world. However, she repeatedly told them that because there were too many people, they must stay with their sisters and were not allowed to walk around without permission. Madame Luo naturally agreed to her words. Although people from all walks of life gathered in Great Elder Princess's mansion, those who were not of high status were not even qualified to step over the threshold. Naturally, the children and grandchildren of the Luo family naturally needed the guidance of elders who could handle the situation. To be honest, before Madame Luo came to the capital city, even Madame Wang was not qualified to bring the younger generation to Great Elder Princess's mansion. In the past, at most, Luo Peishan brought his children and grandchildren who were willing to come, while the people in the harem could only look at the sea and sigh. Therefore, not to mention Jingwan, it was the first time for the other girls to come here, and they all looked a little excited. Luo Jingying was no longer mature and prudent, and Luo Jingying was no longer simple and elegant. Even for Luo Jingyu, Jingwan gave her a full set of beautiful and valuable jewelry. After knowing that she did not have suitable jewelry to match her clothes, she also gave her a few sets of clothes that she had not worn before. After all, she was only 1 year younger than Jingwan, and the clothes only needed a little modification to fit her. In fact, after Concubine Ji's modification, the effect of the clothes was very good. Even Luo Jingyu, who was used to being silent, felt that she was just a quiet and shy little beauty. Needless to say, Jingwan never had to worry about these aspects. She knew how to dress on what occasion. There was also the daughter of a concubine of the first branch, who ranked 6th, and the daughter of a legal wife of the fourth branch, who ranked 7th. These two little girls were both 10 years old. Unlike their sisters, they still had their hair in buns and looked delicate and lively. Old Madame Luo was very satisfied with her delicate granddaughter and couldn't stop smiling. When they arrived at Great Elder Princess's mansion, because there were too many people, the people who greeted them were also from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. They went directly to Great Elder Princess to wish her a happy birthday, and then the male and female guests went separately. Because Madame Luo and Great Elder Princess were not friends, naturally, she did not stay long. After all, there was a big age gap between them. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652982. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile edition website, mbicken.com. Chapter 98. There were too many girls today, and there were countless of them who were of noble status. There were the daughters and granddaughters of important officials in the court, the young ladies of the Duke's Manors, Marquis Manors, and a bunch of princesses and infanta. Some people who originally thought that they would definitely stand out today realized that their previous thoughts were completely wrong after entering the 100-flower mound. Although the clothes they wore were not ordinary and ordinary people couldn't afford or even see them, the moonlight silk, peacock silk, and mermaid gauze were also untouchable. It was like the flowing moonlight, like the peacock's feathers, like the ripples of water, and even a gold-threaded robe. In short, the material they had only heard of occasionally looked beautiful. If they could touch it, it must be soft and smooth. Even if they pinched it in the palm of their hand, it wouldn't wrinkle. Not to mention the headwear and accessories on the body, which were made by the best craftsmen in the world, were unique and beautiful. They could be as thin as cicadas' wings or like real flowers. If one was complacent because of a string of pearls with a full and uniform color, then one would only want to hide the things in one's hands when one saw the large gems of different colors, the pearls of the East and the pearls of the South that were comparable to the best silk, and even the jade that was used to press the skirt were worth thousands of gold. Luo Jingying, who had always thought highly of herself, didn't know that she was actually ordinary until she entered the banquet of the highest standards. She was so ordinary that she couldn't enter anyone's eyes. How could she be the champion in the backyard of Prince Rui's mansion in the future? She might as well dream about it. Luo Jingying, who was deeply shocked, was even a little dazed. She inadvertently glanced at Jingwan's face, which was more radiant than the people around her, without any makeup. Yes, that's right. Those people are just using their clothes to set me off. As long as I can win Prince Rui's favor, I don't need to worry about not having these clothes or accessories. I don't need to be envious or jealous. The most important thing now is to make myself better. Smooth and delicate skin, straight and graceful figure, confident and dignified temperament, not to mention Luo Jingying. Even the other girls of the Luo family subconsciously imitated Jingwan's bearing. When Luo Jingying realized what she had done, her face was a little pale. What was there to learn from this bitch Luo Jingwan? Her posture was not graceful. That temperament, Luo Jingying only felt more and more suffocated, and her heart grew more and more jealous. She secretly touched her own hands and felt that they were a little rough. This B***TCH had raised herself to be so tender and tender. She obviously had good things, but she would rather give them to outsiders and pretend to be a good person than share them with her sisters. Not even a little bit. Such a selfish B***TCH who didn't care about sisterhood, yet someone still treated her like a treasure. Let's wait and see how you all will be humble in front of me in the future. Luo Jingying stared at Jingwan. The more she looked, the more irritated she felt. Jingwan was already engaged, but she was still dressed like a fox. Who was she trying to seduce? She was really shameless. Luo Jingyu glanced at Luo Jingying. Her resentment was almost tangible, but she still imitated her sister's posture and didn't relax at all. Suddenly, she pulled Jingwan. "Sister, that hand cream is really good. It's only been 2 days, and my hands don't feel dry and uncomfortable anymore." Yes, mine too." Sixth young lady stretched out her small hand in front of Jingwan. "It's fine as long as you think it's good. When you're done using it, you can come to me for more. You're still young and don't need to use rouge or powder. But it's not a problem to nourish your skin. I'm making a cream to use on your body, but it'll take a few days. I'll send it to you then, or you can come and get it. We'll get it ourselves. Third sister, if we use it, will we become as smooth as you?" Sixth young lady grabbed Jingwan's hand and touched it enviously. "Although it won't be as good as third sister's, it'll still be better than others. Look at mine." Seventh young lady stretched out her hand in front of sixth young lady. She was a little proud when she saw that her younger cousin's hand was much fairer than hers. Sixth young lady pouted. "Isn't it because you were with third sister in chi and manner? You used it a long time ago." Jingwan laughed in spite of herself and patted sixth young lady's head. "In the future, you can also be like little seven." Sixth young lady nodded and looked at Jingwan with a smile. Luo Jingying's face darkened even more. She glanced at Luo Jingqiang, who seemed to be intentionally or unintentionally touching the back of her hand. Her smile was shallow, but she was really happy. It felt like all her sisters had it, but she didn't. She almost ground her teeth to pieces. "Third sister, it's not good to be so biased. How can everyone have it, but I, your younger sister, don't have it? I think third sister was too busy and forgot." "Yours? I didn't forget. However, I thought you didn't care about my things. Didn't fourth sister throw away the gifts I brought for you from Qin Manor? I think you have better things, so I won't bother." Jingwan said indifferently. Those things were just for show. Why should she care about them? However, these things that could make her more beautiful were different. Luo Jingying secretly hated that incompetent servant girl. She wanted her to throw something away, but she was found out. "Third sister, did you misunderstand something?" "Your younger sister didn't." Jingwan directly turned her head and didn't want to bother with her anymore. Luo Jingying, who didn't even finish her sentence, not far behind Jingwan. Madame Luo saw Jingwan's appearance and couldn't help but nod. As expected, this granddaughter of hers could be brought out in any situation. She wasn't the prettiest, nor was she the one who wore the most extravagant clothes. However, from the outside, she was definitely the one who stood out in a large circle. Others said that the more people there were, the more one would disappear from the crowd. However, for some people, the more people there were, the greater the contrast. Her advantages were even more prominent, and she was even more outstanding than usual. Naturally, it wasn't just 1 or 2 people who noticed this. Especially those madams, they couldn't help but ask softly which family this young lady came from. Her bearing and self-restraint were even better than those princesses and commandery princesses. Of course, this might be an illusion. It was because the princesses and commandery princesses gathered together. Without comparison, it made the whole group seem more ordinary. In reality, this wasn't an illusion. Someone who was standing in the pavilion on the highest rockery not far away and could see the whole scene told you that even if he ignored his own thoughts, his Wanwan was still the most dazzling among all the young ladies. His so-called younger sisters and cousins, even if their etiquette wasn't bad and their bearing wasn't weak since childhood, were still immature compared to Wanwan. It wasn't that Jingwan appeared more mature, but that she was the most perfect combination with herself. If she were to change her clothes, she would definitely be able to suppress the crowd. Li Hongyuan narrowed his eyes. Why did he feel that even if Wanwan was to wear the clothes of a prince's consort now, she would still be able to suppress her steadily and not be inferior to the other prince's consorts? Even if she was a middle-aged woman, she could still be dignified and graceful. Even if she was an old woman, she could still be wise and steady, and she could take charge of the whole family, and even the whole world. She was only 14 years old, but he seemed to be able to see her white hair. How incredible it was! The current her seemed to be able to adapt to the role of a person of any age. Because of his own uniqueness, Li Hongyuan began to suspect Jingwan's origin. An old monster who had experienced the vicissitudes of life? No, it shouldn't be. If she really reached that level when she regained her youth, it would definitely be very strange. Wan only looked calmer than her peers, like a gentle and considerate elder sister. She didn't have the airs of an elder in her youth. She also had the emotions that belonged to her age. If his guess was correct, then Wan's original age shouldn't be too old. She had an extraordinary background and encountered a major accident, so she grew up quickly. However, this accident didn't make her feel resentful. Instead, she became tenacious and indomitable. She turned all the wind, frost, rain, and snow into a whetstone, polishing herself into the most exquisite piece of jade, blooming with brilliance. She probably had a wise elder like Madame Luo by her side, so she could have the ability to control everything, even if it was just her appearance. Of course, he couldn't rule out the possibility that she was influenced by Madame Luo. However, a person whose nature had already been shaped was actually very difficult to be influenced. He himself was the best example. He was very sure that the current Wan was still the person in his previous life. He had reason to suspect that she was a person with an extraordinary origin at that time. After all, the Luo family was a simple and peaceful place. What reason would there be to raise such a woman? In addition, in this life, he had already learned about Wan's life. When she was young, she was quiet, well-behaved, and precocious. Many times, she didn't seem like a child. As she grew older, this disharmony slowly disappeared. Until now, if he didn't carefully experience it, it basically matched her age. Then, the current her was approaching her real age. Then it was very obvious that she didn't come in halfway. She was the third daughter of the Luo family from the beginning. There was no other Luo Jingwan. Only by connecting all these together could he explain some of the small doubts that appeared in Wan's body. Fine brushwork had never appeared in history, so Wan's origin was worth thinking about. She shouldn't be like him, reborn in his body. Perhaps she was reincarnated in the Luo family with the memories of her previous life? Li Hongyuan reached out to cover his eyes. Although this was only his guess, it was very likely. Li Hongyuan suddenly laughed neurotically. Hey, Wan, you should be mine. We are simply a match made in heaven. No matter if you are an old monster or a young lady in her prime, no matter if you are a god or a demon, even if you are a man, since I, Li Hongyuan, have taken a fancy to you, you can forget about escaping in this lifetime. As for the secrets on your body, it doesn't matter. This prince will slowly unearth them, peel them off layer by layer, and reveal your softest and most delicate appearance. Haha. He licked his lips and laughed sinisterly. Jingwan suddenly quivered a little. Why did she have the inexplicable illusion that she was being targeted by a beast? She couldn't help but raise her head and look around. There didn't seem to be anything special. Wang sure couldn't help but sigh. Mother, you are still the best at teaching people. She was also a little jealous in her heart. Her eldest sister had been raised by her before, but why wasn't she trained to be so outstanding? Although Madame Luo was happy, she said, I can't take credit for this. When I raised Wan, I think I pampered her more. She is now like this, and it is all because of me. Sometimes I find it strange. How could people like her parents give birth to someone whose personality is completely different from theirs? But this is very good. Those two are not the same. Although Madame Luo liked her second son, sometimes she also disliked him very much. The third girl is just like you and father. Although these words were flattery, Madame Luo was happy to hear them. Many of them knew Wang Shi, so Madame Luo's identity was self-evident. They all heard that she had just entered the capital not long ago. The girls around her seemed to be the other girls of the Luo family. Some of them were moved and couldn't help but approach her. First, they wanted to make friends with her. After they got a little closer, they naturally talked about their children's marriage. How about your third daughter? She doesn't look very old. Madame Luo smiled. She just got engaged a few days ago. Oh, didn't you just enter the capital not long ago? Why did you get engaged so quickly? Did you say it long ago? No, we only talked about it after we entered the capital. Which noble family's young master is he from? He must be a first-class, outstanding man. Even if you are uneasy, you don't have to be so anxious, right? Madame Luo's smile faded a little. In the eyes of the world, getting engaged so quickly meant that the other party's identity must be prominent. If they were too slow, she was afraid that he would be snatched away. He's not from a noble family. He's my maternal grandnephew. He's just a graduate. My brother also resigned a few years ago and returned to his hometown. The woman was obviously surprised, and many of the people around her were more or less the same. Then, her gaze fell on Jingwan. Looking at such a good girl, could it be that she had some hidden illness? Otherwise, why would she choose such a person to get engaged to? Or was it that this girl looked good, but was actually not liked by Madame Luo? Or was it that Madame Luo was already so old, but still thought of her maternal family and wanted to stuff all the good things back to her maternal family? In such a short time, they came up with dozens of different versions in their minds, but none of them matched Madame Luo's original intention. Who was Madame Luo? How could she not understand what they were thinking? Our family's third daughter is a simple-minded person. She definitely won't be comfortable in a place that is too complicated. For her, instead of living a life of luxury and wealth, it's better to be simple and ordinary. As her grandmother, I don't expect her to bring anything to the family. As long as she has a good life, her parents-in-law treat her well, her husband treats her well, and there isn't a bunch of messy and troublesome things, it's enough. Madame Luo's words made the people around her feel a little awkward. Her words seemed to be calm, and it seemed like she was just talking about her own daughter. But for people like them who kept talking about noble families, it was even a little hurtful. To put it bluntly, she was saying that people like them who only thought about benefits and didn't consider whether their own daughter was really happy and happy were simply unworthy of being a mother. There was nothing wrong with Madame Luo's words. Even if they understood some of her actual meaning, they couldn't flare up. They could only walk to the side with an embarrassed expression. And those who felt that Madame Luo was right couldn't help but come forward and ask Madame Luo for advice on raising children. Although she said that she didn't want to take credit, such a slender and elegant girl was right there. Who would believe her? They asked some things, and Madame Luo wasn't stingy. In fact, there was nothing to hide about those things, but more importantly, it was about Jingwan herself. At this time, she also had the same mentality as those elders who liked to show off their children. Besides, she didn't exaggerate or deliberately raise Jingwan's status. There was no need for that. Ah, is your daughter really that good at raising flowers and plants? That's right. That girl doesn't have any other hobbies other than those flowers and plants. Her grandfather covets the flowers that she raises, but he doesn't dare to move them himself. He's afraid that he'll accidentally spoil them, and it'll be heartbreaking. Our child also likes flowers and plants, but she's a ruthless flower. Every time she raises it, it dies. Then there must be something that you didn't notice. Our girl is very casual with those precious and famous things, and the quality of those things is very good. According to her, she has paid attention to what she should pay attention to, so there's no need to be so careful. If you want to say it's because your girl is spiritual, and the flowers and plants she raises are spiritual. These words made Madame Luo couldn't help but laugh. Luo Jingying saw that Jingwan took care of the other sisters, and even Luo Jingqiang said a few words to her, but ignored her own existence. Her heart, which had originally calmed down because of many reasons these days, began to burn again. She clamored to destroy her. As long as she didn't exist, no one would block her path. She slowly raised her hand and grabbed Luo Jingqiang's fragile neck, fiercely and forcefully. Fourth older sister, what are you doing? Luo Jingyu grabbed Luo Jingying's hand. With such a strong hatred, it wasn't impossible for her to suddenly go crazy and do something stupid. Luo Jingying was pulled back to reality by her and realized that she had lost control of herself. However, other than Luo Jingyu, that little b asterisk tch, probably no one else noticed. She hurriedly restrained herself and pulled her hand back. Older sister also wanted to ask why fifth younger sister was pulling me. Jingwan didn't need to look back to know that Luo Jingying might have done something good to pull Luo Jingyu to her side. Little sister Wan. Sun Yijia's voice sounded from the side. Jingwan looked in the direction of the voice and saw Sun Yijia walking toward her. Sun Yijia was a little unfamiliar to her. She said this because she was exactly the same as what the rumors said about her, cold and aloof. Even when she was dressed, she vaguely had this bias. Although she was wearing a veil, it didn't detract from her aura. On the contrary, it added a hint of mystery to her. It made people want to spy on her and make them want to get close to her even more. It was almost impossible to find any similarities between the person who was familiar with Jingwan and Sun Yijia. Sun Yijia walked over and waved her hand in front of her eyes. She raised her eyebrows and smiled. "Why are you in a daze? You don't recognize me?" Jingwan laughed. I was mesmerized by older sister Jia's elegance and couldn't control myself for a moment. Sweet talker. Sun Yijia reached out and tapped her forehead. Jingwan naturally took her arm. Seeing that more and more people were looking at them, Jingwan understood the reason. "Older sister Jia, let's sit over there." "Sure." Sun Yijia's expression was calm and composed. Because of Madame Luo's order, the other sisters, except for Luo Jingying, all followed her. Although the sisters of the Luo family were the eldest sisters of Luo Jingqiang, they all did things with Jingwan as the center. Luo Jingying naturally didn't want to suffer by her side. Besides, how could she carry out her plan if she stayed with her? "Third sister, I won't go with you. I'll talk to other sisters nearby. I won't go far. It's up to you." It would be strange if she could really stay quietly until she left Great Elder Princess's mansion. Her grandmother had told her in private before that if she wanted to do something, she didn't need to stop her. She would send someone to watch her and make sure that she didn't do anything stupid. Seeing that Jingwan didn't even look back, Luo Jingying thought, "She's just a disfigured girl, and everyone keeps away from her. Why are you still so enthusiastic? Who are you pretending for?" I wanted to wait a little longer and make a more detailed plan, but since Luo Jingwan is so ruthless, you can't blame me. Luo Jingying touched her face. She was eager to become more beautiful. With her delicate skin, which man wouldn't love her? Her mother had told her that she had to plan before she acted. She had to keep her hands clean. However, she could not wait any longer. She had been trapped at home all this time and had no time to come out to do anything. Moreover, she had been forced by that b*tch, Luo Jingwan. Moreover, once his father succeeded, even if he did something, even if he was found out, that old woman would not lock him up. Luo Jingying chuckled in a low voice. When she looked up again, her smile was extraordinarily bright. Luo Jingying thought that she didn't do anything and naturally wouldn't attract others' attention. "Unfortunately, sixth brother, why are you here alone? What are you looking at?" Li Hongming stepped into the pavilion and asked with a smile. "The scenery here is excellent. What do you think I'm looking at?" Li Hongming walked to his side and glanced down. At a glance, he found Ruan Fangfei sitting with several princesses and Infanta. Ruan Fangfei's beauty was unmatched by others, and her bearing was also first class. Therefore, he showed an ambiguous smile that all men understood. "You'll soon have this beauty in your arms. Sixth brother, you don't have to be anxious." Ben Wang isn't anxious at all. There was only one person he was anxious to have in his arms. That's true. Sixth brother will never lack beauties at your side. Naturally, you're not anxious. However, this one is different. Sixth brother should treat her a little better. It's also good for you. Besides, it's a pity to let down such a beauty. He hadn't made a move on Ruan Fangfei and had her take the initiative to approach Li Hongyuan, but Fu Wang had already interfered. According to Li Hongyuan's character, perhaps he could also play 7 days of favor with his legitimate woman. Then he would probably completely offend the Grand Secretary. If he still wanted to use this marriage to climb up the social ladder, he was dreaming. Therefore, Li Hongming couldn't help but remind him, hoping that he would cooperate a little. Since you're so protective of the fairer sex, Ben Wang will give her to you. Laolu, Li Hongming shouted in a low voice. However, when he saw Li Hongyuan's somewhat gloomy expression, he hurriedly eased his tone. How can you say such nonsense? That's your quasi-Si Fei. What if other people hear? Li Hongyuan sneered. What are you pretending for? If you can really drag Ruan Fangfei to your Hoyuan, you'll go crazy with joy. From this position, he couldn't see Wan anymore. It was blocked by the flowers and trees. Li Hongyuan turned and left the pavilion, going down the rockery. Li Hongming took 2 deep breaths, warning himself not to lower himself to his level. It seemed that Ruan Fangfei couldn't tie him down. If he also caused trouble, it wouldn't be so easy to clean up. It seemed that he had to let Mu Fei come out and persuade him. Li Hongming wasn't in a hurry to leave. He looked down again, his gaze moving to other places. As expected, he saw Luo Jingying. Her father had already come looking for him. Although he only said that he was compensating for the colored glass lamp, if he said that he didn't have any other intentions, Li Honyuan would have lived in vain. This girl was barely passable. It wasn't impossible to take her into the Hoyuan. Let's wait and see what her father wanted to do, or how far he could go. It was right next to the flowering shrubs. The embroidered stools were scattered, so she could sit anywhere she wanted. Older sister Jia, you're the only girl in your fu? Jingwan asked. No, there are several female cousins. As for my concubine-born younger sister, they've all been grounded by my mother. I don't like to be with them, so I came to find you. Speaking of which, it's because you're here. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have come. Because of fifth brother's words, she still had a glimmer of hope. As long as she didn't get married, she might be able to wait one more day with hope. Then, for this close friend who might become her sister-in-law in the future, she naturally had to flatter more. Jingwan nodded and didn't continue to ask. That was the family affair of Ding, General Manor. So she began to chat about nothing. Third sister, there's someone on the flower terrace over there. Luo Qi reached out to pull Jingwan and pointed to the center of the lake. In Great Elder Princess's mansion, the huge lake, which was shaped like a crescent moon, was also very unique. It almost spanned the entire front and backyard of the mansion. Winding corridors on the lake crisscrossed, and there were some exquisite and unique pavilions near or far away. Moreover, they were not regular, but had a unique shape and style. Inside the crescent moon was a big garden. There was a corridor every 5 steps, and a scenery every 10 steps. The rockery was rugged, and flowers and trees were scattered. In another courtyard, there was a huge ancient tree leaning to the lake, and some of its branches even went into the water. The bottom of the tree's intertwined roots reminded Jingwan of the mangrove forest. Although the outside of the crescent moon was not so complicated, the layout was also carefully arranged, which looked pleasing to the eye. Both male and female guests could be arranged in different areas near the lake. There was a certain distance between each other, which formed a barrier between men and women. However, they were not out of reach, so it was not interesting to hide them so tightly. As female guests, they were naturally arranged in the crescent moon, near the inner courtyard. Although there was no deliberate arrangement of seniority, it was generally clear that the closer to the outer courtyard, the more distinguished the guests were. For example, the princess consort, the princess consort, the princess consort, the princess consort who was of the same generation or even higher than Li Qingdi, the princess consort of the other married princesses, and the princess consort of the princes. For married women, the older they were, the smaller the range of activities would be. As for unmarried girls, they were more casual. As long as they were not too close to the nobles, it was not a problem for them to pay respect to them at a close distance. If they were really brave, it was also not a problem for them to show their talents near them. As for the male guests, they were almost arranged in the same way. It was said that these were all great elder princesses' ideas. More people should feel that it was novel, while the few who felt that it was improper could only keep it in their hearts, and did not dare to blame Great Elder Princess. The flower terrace in the center of the crescent moon was on the side close to the female guests, which was the closest to those noble women. Although it was called a flower terrace, it was really a flower terrace. The whole shape was like a blooming lotus, and the decorations on it were all kinds of flowers. This flower terrace looks good. I wonder whose idea it is? Jingwan said. It should be Prince Consort Jiang, Prince Consort of Great Elder Princess. People say that Prince Consort Jiang is a very temperamental person. Sun Nijia said, leaned close to Jingwan and lowered her voice. In fact, many people speculate that the arrangement of the flower banquet was also made by Prince Consort Jiang, but Great Elder Princess was not responsible for it. Jingwan nodded. It was understandable. If it was a prince consort, those old pedantic people who were not satisfied with the arrangement would accuse him of being rude and unruly. But Great Elder Princess was different. On the one hand, she was a woman, and on the other hand, she had Lu Qingdi to back her up. Third sister, I want to go over and have a look. It's too far from here and I can't see clearly, Luo Qi said to Jingwan with eagerness. When she was in Qian Mansion, she only had one elder sister, Jingwan. Jingwan was good, so she was naturally close to her. Okay, you all can go. But you must let the maids and older female servants follow you. Don't get separated. Also, stay away from the lake. I'll go with you. I can keep an eye on them, Luo Jingqiang took the initiative to say. Okay. Jingwan nodded. But second sister, you don't have to only care about them. You can also have fun. Luo Jingqiang couldn't help laughing. You call me sister. Don't worry about them. Sun Yijia also felt that sister one often took care of them as her younger sisters. Sun Yijia, like Jingwan, was not interested in the bustle over there. She had seen so many of these scenes that it was not new to her. Moreover, on such an occasion, it was hard to see a talent show that could really make people applaud. Because they didn't join in the bustle, they didn't know that the girl on the flower terrace didn't go there voluntarily. She did it because of a small game from a little girl, Wangzhu Yuyao. This little girl was also the youngest child in Great Elder Princess's mansion. Probably influenced by her father, she came up with some clever ideas from time to time. She had asked someone to get the guest list from her princess mother and engraved the names of the sisters of each family on the wooden pieces. Of course, it was not the names of the sisters, but the order of the sisters was similar to third Miss Luo. Now that all the guests had arrived, she took out the wooden pieces of those who didn't come. There was a group of capable people around her, so she didn't have to worry about small mistakes, such as the names of married women on the list. The small game could start. She prepared a small purse in advance and stuffed many small notes, such as zither, chess, book, painting, song, dance, music into it. Music referred to any musical instrument other than the zither. She let those nobles draw the wooden pieces, and those who were drawn would draw the purse and perform whatever was in it. If the performance was good, they would be rewarded by the nobles. If the performance was bad, or if they didn't know how to perform, they would be punished. The content of the punishment was also in the little Sunny Egg's purse. It wouldn't be too overboard, but there were some that might make people lose their manners. Under the eyes of so many nobles, once they lost their manners, they would definitely lose all face and become the subject of ridicule. When children came up with these punishments, it might be for fun. However, it didn't exclude people with ulterior motives. After all, the little Sunny Egg had already done it. She might have added some things to it if she casually added some words. The more they played, the more lively it became. Naturally, there would be people who made a fool of themselves, and people who would be rewarded. Those who were luckier would be done after drinking a small cup. Those who were unlucky would jump a few times on the spot, causing their dresses to flip up. They were so embarrassed that they wanted to die. Those who were unlucky would naturally be grinning from ear to ear. Gradually, more and more people were attracted. Even if one was sitting in the corner, it was hard not to be affected. Third young Miss Luo. Jingwan faintly heard someone calling her. She raised her head and saw that the surrounding people had dispersed. A group of people was walking over with a young lady in the lead. There was no need to say who it was. The two of them stood up. Greetings, Wang Zhu. There's no need to be so polite. Your older sister Ijia? Wang Zhu Yuyao pointed at son Ijia. Yes, I am. Why is older sister Ijia wearing a veil? Yu Yao tilted her head and asked curiously. Because my face was injured. I was worried that someone would come down, so I covered it up. Oh. Yu Yao nodded. She then looked at Jingwan. Are you the third young miss of the Minister of Rights, Lord Luo's family? Yes, I am. What instructions does Wang Zhu have for me? Jingwan smiled. According to what Nanny Gong said, although this young lady was sometimes a little mischievous and unruly, her nature wasn't bad. In Jingwan's opinion, she was also a cute young lady. A few days ago, there was a young lady in your family who broke the colored glass lamp I gave to my mother. It was third cousin who compensated me. There was a lot of information in these words. That's her fault. I'll ask grandmother to teach her a lesson. I don't know if Wang Zhu likes flowers. How about I compensate you with a flower to replace the colored glass lamp? But third cousin has already compensated me. Yu Yao tilted her head. You can just return it to your third cousin brother. If you have already given it to your mother, you can buy a new one and return it. After all, it was this subject's sister who broke it. How can I let your third cousin brother compensate for it? What do you think, Wang Zhu? Then what kind of flower are you going to compensate me with? I don't want it if it's not precious or famous. You know flowers very well, Wang Zhu? Of course. Yu Yao stuck out her chest. My father and mother both like flowers. I've learned a lot from them. Wang Zhu is so awesome. Seeing her increasingly proud look, Jingwan's hand itched to pinch her. Camellia, 18th scholar. What do you think, Wang Zhu? Do you want it? Yu Yao's little eyes immediately lit up. She even excitedly grabbed Jingwan's hand. Yes, Sister Luo, you can't coax me. She was also a shrew. I won't coax you. When I go back, I'll ask someone to send the flowers to you. Although not everyone knew about the 18th scholar, the nanny behind old Master Yu Yao was very clear about it. She looked Jingwan up and down with inquiring eyes. If Jingwan wanted to curry favor with great elder princess in this way, it was too blatant. Besides, Jingwan's attitude was too casual and natural, as if she was talking about flowers and plants that could be seen everywhere, instead of a rare treasure that was worth tens of thousands of gold. Jingwan did notice it, but she didn't say anything and just let her look at her. So Wang Zhu, do you come to me to play a game? Ah, right, I forgot all about it. Sister Luo, take a pouch. Yu Yao let the maid behind her carry a tray. Wang Zhu, before I take it, can I ask what's inside? If I get something I don't know, it will be terrible. I'm really a little scared. Jingwan patted her chest pretentiously. Yu Yao giggled. Sister Luo, don't be afraid. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to play it. I'm here. I won't let anyone punish you. Then this subject's daughter can rest assured. Jingwan smiled as she casually took out a pouch and handed it to another servant girl. By the way, Wang Zhu who picked me. It's such an honor. It's Princess Cheng, the Empress's younger sister, Li Ruyu's mother. The maid opened the pouch. Wang Zhu, it's zither. Can Sister Luo play it? Wang Zhu Yu Yao looked at Jingwan. The Luo family's fourth daughter is good at zither, but I heard that her third sister is even better. Jingwan glanced at the source of the voice. She didn't need to know who it was. This matter must have something to do with Luo Jingying. Well, I'll have someone prepare the zither. Sister Luo, let's go. Wang Zhu, please go first. I'll be there in a moment. Okay, Sister Luo, hurry up. When Wang Zhu Yu Yao left, some of the surrounding girls wanted to see what she was going to do. Playing the zither, she could just play it directly. Third girl. Madame Luo, who had watched the whole process, walked in with a cold face. Jingwan smiled. Grandmother, granddaughter hasn't played the zither for a long time. I don't know if I'll be out of tune. If I lose face, you can't scold me. Madame Luo's heart ached. This child was like this. She could find a way to solve any problem and never let others worry about her. But sometimes she had to suffer, which was not as good as now. Mama Gong, hurry up and use a cloth to wrap third girl's fingers. Mama Gong didn't know that her young lady could play the zither, but now was not the time to think or ask. With her young lady's delicate hands, playing a song would definitely injure her fingers. She didn't have time to find a cloth. Without another word, she directly tore off the bottom of her clothes and pulled out some thread from the edge. She quickly wrapped Jingwan's fingers with the thread and tied them up. Jingwan looked at the cloth. There were no burrs and it was tightly wrapped. There was no need to worry about it falling off during the zither play. Mama Gong's work is reassuring. What time is it now? You're still joking. Madame Luo was so angry that she hit her forehead. Jingwan smiled carelessly. Granddaughter will go first. Sunny Jia saw Madame Luo's nervous expression. She was afraid that the matter was not simple, so she followed. Madame Luo looked at Jingwan's back and said, "Where's Luo Jingying?" Her voice was terribly low. It could be seen that she was really angry. Madame Luo, she is still at the flower terrace. It has been confirmed that it was fourth girl who instigated Infanta Ruyu to target third girl. Good, very good. Jingwan walked to the front of the nobles and greeted them politely. Seeing that she was well behaved, neither servile nor overbearing, natural and unrestrained, and was not petty at all, everyone secretly clicked their tongues. Her bearing and cultivation were too outstanding. Great Elder Princess originally had doubts about Jingwan's gift of flowers. She only thought that Jingwan was trying to curry favor with her. But after seeing Jingwan, this idea gradually faded away. You gave Yu Yao a stalk of 18 scholar. Do you know its value? As far as I know, in the whole capital city, except for the one in your hand, there are no more than 3 stalks. Are you willing to give it to me? Great Elder Princess, I love flowers, cherish them, and take care of them. What I care about is not their value, but the process. Watching them grow little by little and blossom into beautiful flowers makes me feel happy both physically and mentally. That's enough. My sister did something wrong first, so I should compensate her. But I can't give you anything except the flower. Wengzhu happens to like it, so it's the best of both worlds. I believe that the stalk of 18 scholar will be well taken care of in your mansion. As long as it is well, even if it is not in front of you, you will not care about it. Great Elder Princess laughed. You are really interesting. You don't sound like you are taking care of a flower, but a child. My husband and I are both lovers of flowers, so we shamelessly accept it. Don't worry, it will be well taken care of. If you miss it, you can come to my mansion to see it at any time. The first part of her words was not a big deal, but the last part shocked everyone. Even the princesses and commandery princesses didn't expect such a sentence from Great Elder Princess, which showed how important it was. Not to mention other things, Jingwan's value increased a lot. Thank you, Your Highness. Luo Jingying was anxious and angry not far away. She was anxious because the fact that she broke Wengzhu Yuyao's glazed lamp was known by everyone, and Luo Jingwan still meddled in other people's business and offered a stalk of camellia as compensation, which might ruin her father's plan. She was angry because before she could humiliate this B***TCH, she showed her face and won Great Elder Princess's favor. Wengzhu Yuyao's glazed lamp is so expensive. Third sister, is it not good to compensate with a stalk of camellia? Luo Jingying said cautiously. This time, Great Elder Princess was not the only one who laughed. Miss, you must be the one who broke my Wengzhu Yuyao's glazed lamp, right? A glazed lamp is worth no more than 2,000 or 3,000 taels of silver, but a stalk of 18 scholars is worth at least 10,000 taels of silver or even gold. In the eyes of a love-struck man, he won't exchange it even if you give him a mountain of gold or silver. Moreover, no matter how expensive a glazed lamp is, it can still be made. But 18 scholars is hard to come by. Your sister suffered a great loss because of you. Luo Jingying blushed and wished she could find a hole to hide in. In her opinion, flowers and plants, no matter how rare they were, could not be precious. How could they be compared with such a precious and beautiful glazed lamp? Moreover, how could Luo Jingwan be so generous as to give away something worth 10,000 taels of gold and 100,000 taels of silver? If not, how could she be so embarrassed? I'm too shallow. I'll thank you well when I go back. She was not too stupid. Great elder princess looked at Jingwan, who was quiet, with admiration in her eyes. Do you have any other famous things? Yes. Oh, great elder princess asked casually. It was good enough to find one stalk of such good things. Unexpectedly. Can you tell me more? I have a crane plume, a fragrant incense, a pot of yaodai jade phoenix, a mutated clivia lily, and a tricolored peony at home. Great elder princess was shocked. She even suspected that she had misheard. Is what you said true? I don't dare to lie to you, great elder princess. Great elder princess took 2 deep breaths. I shouldn't have asked you. I want to take all of them for myself. That won't do. If princess were to take it, this subject's heart would ache to death. Jingwan blinked her eyes, but spoke in a deadpan manner. Great elder princess burst into laughter. You mischievous girl. Although I'm tempted, I can't take your things by force. But when will you move to the mansion and let me have a good look? No problem. Great elder princess, isn't it Yu Yao's game time now? Li Ruyu couldn't stand it anymore. The bitch who seduced her cousin with flowers was now seducing great elder princess. She deserved to die. As for Li Ruyu, not many people liked her. Third Miss Luo, go play the zither first. When you finish playing, you can tell me about your treasures. Yes. Jingwan walked to the flower terrace calmly. The zither had been placed on the table. However, the moment Jingwan put her fingers on the zither, she knew that it was not so simple. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652984. HTML. Click here to report. Registration is free. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of the book, www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile edition website, mbicken.com. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.